Oh yeah, Tom's in here. He goes, "That's the name of my show." All right, I got you live now too, Tom. Um,
What's up?
it's the Big Bald Cool Guys show today because there's two of us
Base,
and
let's
we're
go.
so cool.
And so
Yeah, we're
bald.
jumping right into it. All right, so welcome Tom Foolery. If you guys don't remember, and maybe you do, Tom is a frequent guest on the Politically Provoked show. He and I have interacted several times on there. I debated his father, who is a Christian missionary to the Jews, and we did a debate on the kill stream. If you remember, the kind old man who I debated, who was he said that the world is Jewish and the Bible's Jewish and the future's Jewish and heaven is Jewish and Jesus is Jewish and God is Jewish and everything's Jewish. And I debated him on the kill stream. That was Tom's dad, so he set all that up. And I got more to say about why Tom's here, but welcome to the show, Tom. Welcome to the show that I don't have a name for. Welcome to the Big Bald Cool Guys show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm also talking to Nick right now. We're hopefully
Nick
gonna
who?
have him on my documentary soon.
Nick Fuentes?
Yeah,
You're talking to him right
like we've
now?
been talking for a while about like
Oh.
negotiations. Like we've been talking about setting stuff up. The last time I talked to you, I was just telling my audience the last time I talked to you, you were a little upset about the Nazi stuff. And so like I was telling them, I was like, yeah, I think like he has a point. Like a lot of people do say really stupid stuff about like killing Nazis and punching Nazis and stuff like that. And
Mm.
as long as they're saying really stupid stuff like that, I can't like say things that even if I think like it's a word that gives me some sort of utility in describing people, it's not really helpful if people are turning around and advocating for violence against you guys. Though I have
Right.
somebody in my chat who's saying that you advocate for them getting kicked out of their country. So I don't I think that they disagree with me now on
You have somebody
getting
in
rid
your
of that
chat
label.
advocating for that says I advocate for them getting kicked out of their country?
Yeah, they said I don't like the punch and Nazi LARPies either, but it's pretty difficult to have sympathy for someone like Big Tech, considering they want to forcibly remove people like me from my country.
Like who is this person, like a child molester or something?
I no, I don't think so. I don't know why.
Well then
Are
why
those
would I
the
want to
only people that
forcibly
you want
remove
to
them from my country?
are those the only people that you want to forcibly remove from the country? It's just child molesters. There's
Yeah,
nobody else.
I want to put them on like a prison island in the middle of the ocean where they fight
Mm,
together to the death. But that's just
base.
like
Let's
it's not
go.
really like a policy prescription either. It's just like a personal. That's what I would like. But as far
Can I
as
ask you a
removing people
question?
from the country, I don't have any type of plan or desire to do that. It's not even practical to think that way. So that's silly.
Okay. I can I ask you a question? What do
Actually,
you
before you
yeah,
ask
go
me the
ahead.
question,
Do
but I
your
just
thing.
want to remark on that. It's just so funny. This is just another way. It's that person says, "I don't like the punch and Nazi thing, but," and then what comes after the but is a justification to dehumanize me and essentially justify them having no sympathy for me, which is another way of saying like I don't treat them like a person. I don't like
Well,
it
I think they're
justifying them,
saying
but then they fill in the blank with this thing that's not even true about me. Oh, he wants to deport me from the country. Like, what are you talking about?
yeah, I think that they're saying that they feel like you dehumanize them. So I I don't know what that information is. So I guess I'll have to wait to
Yep.
see if we get more information. But
All right, right on.
um
Well, we can move on. I just think it's something to. I mean, I experience it often when I encounter these certain types, but maybe you'll see it too. See what I mean, anyway. But yeah, we can get more
well, I mean,
information.
if they're against the punch and Nazi stuff, it seems like they're a little bit more rational than the types of people that we're talking about, right?
I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's funny that they'll say I'm against the punch and Nazi thing, but, and usually when people speak that way, the but sort of negates the first thing they said. It's like, well, virtue signal, but bad thing about me. It's really what I read that to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I'm making a video about the Balenciaga stuff, and I wanted to
Oh,
know
okay.
what are your thoughts on that?
My current understanding of it is actually sort of like I'm gaining an understanding of it. And really, it's kind of a surprising way too, because in the past, things like this. Well, forget that. In the past, I mean, I don't even know anything exactly like this in the first place, but really, I'm trying to understand what Ye was saying about it in this, because it kind of sparked an interesting concept for me, and I've had some discussions with others who brought some things to light, where what he said, I bet you're familiar, where he said
I
that
know
it
what he's
actually kind
saying.
of what?
I know of things that he said about it with the abortion and all of that.
No, actually, specifically, maybe I can pull up the clip, but he said more or less that it looks like a setup, in a way. He says these things are planned beforehand, and his name was all over the Balenciaga stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was his deal, and he was also kind of like going rogue, and they were attempting to pull his chain on some stuff, and what they tend to do, as far as we know about them, it's like this pattern, from Epstein Island being one extreme case, and then various degrees of that. It's essentially a blackmail, like kind of racketeering program, and so they get these sort of leverages over people who are in powerful positions through having things that they can hold over their head, or even sort of like a eject button that they can pull on this person if they need to. So it doesn't seem far-fetched that if they needed to have some control over Ye, what they would do is create a campaign that would potentially poison his brand with like this terrible, the worst scandal of scandals, like the idea that it's full of pedophilia, and then have that tied to his name. And then they could say, all right, well, you're going to play ball, or we're going to go option B on you, and we're going to release this scandal or something like that. That's an
Yeah,
idea.
those were from his earlier comments on it. So initially, Balenciaga was trying to sue the people who were or the people who photographed the entire shoot, and then they dropped the suit because they realized that it was actually their people who made those decisions, and they apologized and said, you know what, this is all on us. We thought it was him, but it wasn't, uh, and they fired whoever it was that was in charge of it. It seems like they were trying like to purposely do some like weird freaking taboo,
Yeah,
uh, like I don't know, like just yeah, it seemed like they were just trying to do some weird taboo stuff that
pretty
they
weird.
tend to do in design. But
That's the question, though. Is like, but why? They were trying to do that, but why? The motive of why? Like, who benefits from that? Like, what's going on? Another person that I know who, because of the type of work that he does, he's connected with different types of marketing strategy concepts. He understands these. He was explaining to me, and I couldn't really quite reiterate to you exactly, so I'll be general. But the idea was that he even gave me some examples where they'll actually set up a scandal like this from time to time as a way of generating more brand recognition for themselves. Because I mean, who's more on the front line of it? Like every, they're blasted everywhere right now. They're on the forefront of everybody's attention, and all they had to do was put some weird stuff hidden in their pictures, and then they can disavow it, and they could say, "Oh, that was just that one photographer. Oh, it was that one set designer had a problem. Oh, we found the person responsible for that, and we got rid of them." But now Balenciaga is drilled into everybody's brain, and next year they'll still be buying it. Once they get forgiven for the scandal, that was like better than a Super Bowl commercial as far as how much exposure they got. So there's ways to go like that too. Who knows? You know?
yeah, so the main thing that like I'm dealing with right now is there's a bunch of people who are upset about the conspiracy theories around it, saying that like the far right is blaming trans people and saying that there's child sex scandals, and that it's the gays that are making everybody do the pedophilic stuff, and like it just I don't see much of this. I am sure it's out there somewhere, but I don't really see people saying this stuff, and I feel like they're boxing shadows. Do you is this an opinion that you hold, or are they actually boxing shadows?
No, it's not what we think over here. I haven't seen anybody talking about trans as the cause of this or anything like that. It's really not even. I mean, we don't know what to think about it any more than you do. Essentially, over here, we're just like, I don't know. And as far as, and we all, I mean, we're hanging on the edge of our seats for every word that drips from Ye's mouth right now. And he said that it looks like a setup, and we're like, okay, sounds like that actually makes sense. And seems like maybe dodged a bullet, you know. He lost the contract and broke off from them right before all this hit. Now he's like, all right, well, that's you guys. They tried to get me and it didn't work. They, you know, maybe that was it. I don't know.
So do you guys not think, I mean, I guess if you want to jump into the Kanye stuff, that's, is that cool?
Yeah. That's why we're here. Absolutely. Let's go.
Do you guys not like, I see what Nick is doing as like, he's taking an opportunity where somebody is like getting a lot of exposure, going on a lot of podcasts there. He's all over the place. Like he's everywhere you turn. Everybody's listening to Kanye West, and he gets to tag along and go along for the ride. But it just seems obvious that the guy's like going through like some sort of like manic depressant state. And it's not, I'm not saying this because of, I know lots of people keep saying, oh, he said something about the Jews, so now he's crazy. This guy's been crazy. Like he's been crazy, you know, since I was a kid, everybody's called him crazy. He's been institutionalized or committed before. Like he's had lots of mental breakdowns and has had a lot of issues. So I see Nick saying this is an opportunity for me to gain exposure, for me to put my ideas out there, regardless of who it is that I'm attaching myself to. I still get that exposure in the meantime. Do you guys see it that way, or do you think Kanye's completely sane and they're both on the same page?
I'm
probably putting you in a tough spot here.
No. I'm going to answer this is a good question. It was a little bit loaded, so we're going to like unpack, unload that question. Sure. There was a lot of sort of assumptions that were lumped into that question that I'm
giving you my opinion and then asking you what you think.
You're asking me my opinion in the form of telling me yours, and then you want to remark. So let's talk about your opinion and see if I can maybe shed light that will change your opinion, actually.
Okay.
And I'll tell you mine too. But first of all, I would ask the question, are you aware of Nick's history with Ye before now?
No.
Okay. Well, this is going to blow your mind then. And I'm not making this up. Everybody in the chat will back me up. It's 100% true. Ever since I've been watching Nick, which has been several years now, Kanye West was Nick's hero. Ye was Nick's idol in a way. Mm-hmm. He was Nick's North Star as far as artistic inspiration. It was Ye. Yep. And not only, just like many of his generation feel this way about him. I mean, he is kind of like the Michael Jackson of our generation. It's one thing. Mm-hmm. Nick's intro music to America First for the last, I think, year and a half has been Ye's music. Nick wore the Balenciaga gimp mask to a live protest last year. Nick, like half of the time that Nick is receiving super chats, which he saves for the end of the show, he does his show, gives his monologue, and then he says, all right, now let's turn to the super chats and see what you guys have to say. And then he's got a list of people who've sent in questions and comments in the super chats. If it's not every show, it's almost every show. He's talking with people about Ye because they're asking him to give a tiered ranking of Ye's best songs or albums best or best Ye song to drive to or what was your favorite Ye moment. And it's just like Ye has been a meme within the America First sphere as sort of like a cultural reference point for the Groypers for all of this time, for several years. It's Ye. It's like Nick, like Ye and Nick are like peanut butter and jelly. And it's so what I'm telling you is the fact that Ye has come around and has linked up with Nick. Not only that, but also before he even met Nick, he like fulfilled a wish for us and then came along as, like in a movie where all of a sudden a new character enters the scene to save the day, like a Deus Ex Machina moment, a new superhero joins the team that changes the dynamic completely and saves the day. It was like that. So the idea that Nick is just being opportunistic with Ye, regardless of who it is completely opposite from how we see it. It's like this is a fulfillment of like a prayer. Like God gave us a miracle and he brought Ye in, like we manifested a meme into reality through how much Nick loved Ye and expressed his gratitude and his admiration for Ye. There's nobody else. It's not like Ye and all these other artists. It's not like Nick was talking about other artists. He just talked about Ye like an obsessive weirdo. So much that I didn't get it. I just was like, that's just something that comes along with Nick, is that he's just obsessed with Kanye West. And I'll never understand it. It's just like, maybe it's a Zoomer thing. It's a generational thing. I'm nearly 40. So I didn't really grow up with his music. I heard the songs, but I like Nick grew up with it. Like I didn't really, it kind of like came along later. I was already kind of like a grown up when Ye really blew up. And so I thought, well, maybe it's a generational thing. The Zoomers love Ye. He's like their cultural icon. I'm not really like a hip hop, R&B, like black music kind of guy. I mean, I grew up with kind of like, I liked like Led Zeppelin and Stone Temple Pilots, like grunge music. I liked like rock bands with guitars. It's like kind of just general white guy shit, I guess. And some country music, and I like classical music, and I like some rap too, but it was usually like the West Coast. I liked Snoop and I liked Tupac, and I like Biggie too on the other side. But I mean, that was kind of old school rap. I liked that. I mean, that was cool. I liked Eminem. I liked some of the songs. I was like, yeah, I get it. Some of these tracks are like kind of fire, and it's a bop. You know, you listen to it and it sounds cool. But I was never like into it, so I didn't understand the Ye thing at all. But Nick was obsessed with Ye. And I was like, all right, the Mexican savior of the white race is obsessed with a black man's music. Like, all right, whatever. It doesn't make sense to me. But he's like crazy about Kanye West. And then the fact that he comes along and he starts naming the Jews and he gives his life, like literally puts his life on the line and sacrifices his fortune to come out and tell the truth about them. And then he links up with Nick and brings Nick along on the adventure of facing them down together in 2022. On the run up to the next presidential campaign. We're over here with our minds blown like this is destiny. Like this is unbelievable that this is happening right now. How could it makes Nick look like a visionary of the future. Like how could he have such foresight? How could he be so vindicated? He took shit from people for years for loving Ye so much. Like it was a meme and they used to make fun of him for loving Ye. And he was like, I don't care. He's my favorite. I love Kanye West. And we were like, what? Not all of us, but I mean, like people on the outside, you know, they take jabs at him and they make up things about him. They call him like maybe he's a closet homosexual or maybe he's this or that. He's got he loves they would say N-word music or whatever. The real actual racists, and that was a splitting, dividing point for many people. That it was like how can we really respect him as a leader of white America, quote unquote? If his favorite artist is a black man, like that doesn't make, and like people had a problem with him and he was like, well, you're going to have to deal with it. I'm a Christian and I love Kanye West. Those are pretty much the defining attributes of Nick Fuentes. So that's kind of like, if you would put the bullet points of what's interesting about Nick, it would on a business card, it would be like podcaster, Christian, Kanye West fan. Like it would be like that. So this idea that he's just like, opportunistically capitalizing an opportunity, no matter who came along, he'll just use it for clout or for advantage or something. It's like, no, dude, this is a fulfillment of some kind of strange destiny. That's how it seems to us. And the second question about if he's having some manic episode or something, people have said things about me, that I'm crazy. People have said things about people who I know that they don't understand. And now you mentioned that he was institutionalized. Well, I mean, isn't that the Harley Pasternak episode where a literal MK Ultra agent, like a Jew from Canada who was trained by the government to dose people with like Joker pills and like zombify them? Didn't that person, when Ye wore the red hat and came out in support of Trump, didn't that person drug Kanye and then put him in an institution? That's what happened. But this idea that he's a maniac and he's not in control of himself.
Well, I don't know that actually answers the question because I love Kanye as well. I'm a huge Kanye fan. Like I always liked his music, but when he came out with my uh sorry, I'm okay, sorry. When he came out with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and did the Runaway show on MTV, I
Yep.
fell in love with the guy. Like he is a genius. Like all of that was so good. It was so good. I get in arguments all the time with people about whether or not he's actually a genius and whether or not he actually is like as great as I think he is. But I also still have the same like criticisms of him. I also still think he has issues. I thought Michael Jackson had issues. I think lots of like really great um, artistic people happen to have issues, and that's those are some of the things that make them so great in these artistic areas. And so I don't like overall like it's not completely a way to downplay him or to disregard him because I think that those are some of the things that make him great.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that now, because I think he's a genius, because I think he's a great artist, and all of this other stuff, that now I agree with his political opinions. Um, and so I think Nick does agree with a lot of those political opinions,
Yeah, he
but I don't
already
know
did.
that right, but I don't know if he agrees like with everything that he's doing, everything he's saying, the way he's going about it. Like those are the parts that I would imagine like, getting on TV and be like, "Oh, Hitler's awesome actually. Nazis weren't so bad." Like that sort of stuff. Like I don't know that he agrees with that sort of stuff and that I feel like he's just kind of along for the ride right now.
Do you think he doesn't agree?
I think that I think that I've heard him over and over do his best to separate himself from those sorts of ideas and those sorts of statements. Uh and so yeah, I think he doesn't agree
What is the disagreement?
that he would be some big fan of Hitler or Nazis or something like that.
So you think he's not a fan?
Of
Jimmy
Hitler
2
and
MPH
Nazis.
sent $10. He's
Yeah,
not
I think
crazy.
he's not a fan of
He
Hitler
just
and Nazis.
pointed out something that he saw happening and they proved him
I'm
right.
getting a super chat that's playing through. Why didn't I hear? Oh, I got to turn this channel up for myself. Yeah, I think it's this one. I'll read that though. So I'm glad it didn't play through for you. Let's go ahead and read this super chat. Let's see if it had anything to do with you. By the way, thank you. Jimmy says he's not crazy. He just pointed out something that he saw happening and they proved him right. Yeah. Real. Thank you for the 10, Jimmy. Okay, so you, just to get it right, and I'm hearing you. I'm not trying to like I'm just making sure I get. You think that Nick doesn't like Hitler?
Yeah, I think that Nick is not a fan of Hitler. Yes.
And why?
Because I've heard him literally denounce that sort of stuff in the past. I've heard him like try his best to separate himself from people like accusing him of that sort of crap and calling him a Nazi and those sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's very ironic that he does his best to separate himself from those things in the past, but then once he's on like the biggest stages he's ever been on, then all of a sudden he's immediately implicated again.
Well, so what I'm gonna do like a Socratic questioning with you, so we can just. I'm not intending to dodge the question. I want to get to the truth, but follow me down this road a little bit.
Yeah.
You said Hitler. You said Nick has done his best to distance himself from saying that he likes Hitler and that he's not a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Does saying that you like Hitler, does that make you a Nazi?
Like conceptually, the way that we would like call people like neo-Nazis and those sorts of things, I would say, yeah, that's like, I would say that that's something that makes it more likely for you to be a Nazi. Yeah.
Okay, well then all right, then let's just define the term Nazi then going forward, because you're using it sort of like ambiguously then. If liking Hitler, if finding something that you like about Hitler, what if it was just like that guy rallied his country in a way like almost never before seen. And in fact, I wish that I could see a man rally our country in a strong way like
Yeah,
that.
there are
Does that make you a
redeeming
Nazi?
qualities. There are redeeming qualities of Hitler. I can talk about all of the ways that he was good at management, that he was smart, that he was good at art, like all of those things. It doesn't mean that like overall when people think of Hitler, those are not the things that they think of, right? They think of very specific things, and those are
Right.
those very specific things are what Nick was trying to separate himself from. I thought that's one of the reasons like he invented the word Wignat, was like trying to separate himself from people like that.
Well, what is it about the Wignats that he wanted to separate from would be the question, right?
The ethno-state stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. That
The stuff that
along
Hitler was doing. Yeah.
that along with, which by the way wasn't Hitler's main motive. It wasn't ethno-state. That
course
wasn't the main
not.
motivation at all. So let's be clear. What Hitler was doing versus what was included in some of the particulars is different than, it's like saying I have a television. Oh, is that so that you can have light in your room? Well, I mean, I guess it does put light in my room, but that's not what it's for. It's for something totally
Yeah,
different.
but I also think Hitler wanted to love people. I think he wanted to have friendships. I think he wanted to have a wife, and
He
maybe
also
kids. I
wanted
think
to-
he wanted all sorts of things, but
Yeah.
those are not what we're talking about when we're
Well, he
talking
also
about
wanted
Hitler.
he also wanted to save Germany from communism.
Mhm.
That's a pretty good thing to do. And like
True.
he like gave his life fighting against communism in Germany. That's pretty
Yeah,
epic.
again, there are redeeming qualities of Hitler, but those are
Yeah.
not what we're talking about normally when we're talking about Hitler. Those are not
So
the first things that come
here's
to
the
mind.
thing. What you're doing is exactly it. There's this thing that you just said, normally. The thing that normally come to mind for kind of like normal people is some other thing. And that's the problem that's being identified here, is that the conversation is being limited by the normal-minded, normal-thinking people who aren't really thinking. This is what you're referring to really is the pre-programming that's been put into people's mind from the time they're a kid, when they're like 9 years old and they get shown footage of a bunch of bodies being pushed into a ditch, and they get traumatized by this story about the Holocaust and this big mean monster who just wanted to murder everybody and make a pure like blonde hair, blue-eyed race, and he was just like a psycho, and you get scared as a little kid. And now when you hear the word Hitler, you just see the mustache and you see Satan. And that's what people think. And when you say, no, I think I like Hitler, they're like, you like Satan? It's like, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, well,
That's just
so okay,
that's the concept that's in the normal blue-pilled like bot mind, like Sneeko would say. Like, you're doing a bot think, and then you're asking me if I like the bot version
Yes.
of Hitler. It's like, no.
I agree with what you're saying, but so there are things that are like we do have biases for people that are like us, and especially that look like us, and we do tend to get along with those people better, and it could actually make for a better society if we all looked alike and acted alike and had similar cultures. These things could be very beneficial to us, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that Nick wants an ethno-state just because there are some things that the Wignats were doing that were actually correct. And so if you're saying, well, he did group these people and he did try to separate himself from those people, do you think that he was wrong for trying to separate himself from them?
No, and I should add too that there's another part of the story too that has to be included. It's not that these people outwardly said that they respected Hitler's good things he did, and therefore he separated himself from them. That's not why we separated from the Wignats. Back then, in the alt-right days, remember the Tiki Torch days?
You guys care more about Christianity than the Wignats did.
It's not that either. Well, it is that. I mean, definitely that. But there's a big element that you're missing that if you weren't on the inside, you can't understand. So I want to explain it.
Okay.
Remember the Tiki Torch days with the khaki pants and the matching polos and the Tiki Torch and the marching and the chanting? That was something that they were getting into. And Nick saw early on that that was a losing optical strategy. And what these guys were doing is having events and rallies where like overweight, like chubby, out of shape retards were putting on khakis with like cargo khakis and a polo shirt. And they were bringing like Nazi swastika flags to rallies, and they were going there and they were bringing guns and they were doing Roman salutes and saying like Heil Hitler and stuff. And he was like, we got to get as far away from these retards as we can. It was literally like these guys, any organization, any movement that gets started that has anything like this going on in it is going to absolutely get poisoned. It's going to go in the trash. It's never going to be allowed. It's not going to go anywhere. So we have to fight and we have to draw a line that these people cannot pass, and we have to keep them away from us. So Nick put on a suit. Nick made America First flag. Nick made a studio where he's in a high rise looking out over a city. And Nick said, Christ is king. And we had a AFPAC, America First PAC, political action conference, where everybody's expected to dress nice in a suit and come and say Christ is king with us. And we have senators come up and give speeches and everybody claps, and there's no salutes and there's no Nazi flags and there's no fat asses in cargo pants and no fat retards doing salutes or bringing guns. Everybody is a Christian, and we're professional and we're students and we're serious, and we're not associating with all of that low class trash that's going to destroy everything. And that's what the Wignats were. What they do when they get together with rallies.
This is all my point, Big Tech. You're making my point for me. Yes, like saying like the stuff about Hitler. This is exact. Yes, you are making my exact point.
But that doesn't mean that Nick hates Hitler. It means he hates those retards who are in love with Hitler.
I get that.
So then what's the problem?
But you're talking about optics. You're talking about how these people are optically bad. He doesn't hate khakis. He hates the way that people look when they are in the khakis. And he doesn't hate guns. He hates the way that people look when they're walking around with the guns. So I would assume he hates the way it looks when he's sitting next to somebody who's praising Hitler.
Okay, well, here's the deal. It is, I bet it's not what Nick would have chosen to do. That's true. I mean, I have to give you that. If Nick was suddenly thrust into this, let's say Nick was invited onto Tucker Carlson, or Alex Jones was going to have the biggest show he's ever had, and Nick was going to be the main guest. Do you think Nick would have put on the gimp mask and said that he loves Hitler? Like, no, Nick wouldn't have done that. It took Kanye to do that. It took Ye to do that. And Nick has made his way in his way as far as he could in his way. And Nick couldn't have done that. None of these Wignats could have gotten away with it. They would have, if anybody did it, like who else could have done that except Ye? Like there's only one man I can even think of. Like I never even thought anybody could do that. But Ye did it. And now it's like, all right, cat's out of the bag. And we're in a different time. The thing is, when Nick started his whole movement and the optics strategy was developed, this whole breakaway from the Wignats, all the fat retards who get together, they get together in a barn and they drink and they have angry speeches. National justice now! National justice now! And they get all hyped up. And we're going like, Christ is king! Christ is king! And they're going, national justice now! It's a different energy. And so we were cultivating a whole other breakaway energy for the dissident right to be able to respond to something that's actually positive, and it's focused on policy issues in national politics rather than running some pie-in-the-sky third party that's all based on like picketing activism against blacks mainly, which is basically almost all they focus on. It's just like these blacks in our neighborhoods and there's too many black criminals. And it's like, guys, anyway, I don't know. I honestly shouldn't just take just those cheapest shots at them. I really don't even know them that much because I can't resonate with their energy. It's too angry and it's too sort of like herder, like it's too grug brain. Nick is smart. He's eloquent. He's funny. He's cheerful, and he's innocent. And he's not sex obsessed. He doesn't worship women like the NJP does. Like their whole thing is just like, and the whole, we got to do it for our ladies and our beautiful women and protect them from the blacks and stuff. It's like they're obsessed with their women. And Nick is just like, I just want what's right for the country. And I'm a Christian and I believe in God. And I think these people are literally the enemy of God. And they're overrunning our country and they're doing evil upon us. So we have to fight back. So, but none of them, Nick, nor any of them could have done what Ye has done. It literally takes like a wild card black man, billionaire, to be able to do that. So Nick couldn't do it. That's why he was like against it. He's like, we can't do that. If we do that, we'll lose. but Ye could do it, but I could never ask Ye to do it. Well, Ye just comes out of, it's like John Cena just runs, like, ba-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-da-da. It's like that moment. All of a sudden, Ye's here. And, like, cue the horns. And it's like, oh, shit. Oh my God. That's how we feel over here. But he's the only one that could have done it. And so now it's out. Now it's on, dude. And now we're talking about it because we always knew. You think we didn't know that, like, Hitler was fighting for the right side? He was fighting the enemy of the humankind, and he lost. And it was a massive tragedy for the globe that he lost. It really was. Was everything good about him? No. Was he a Christian? No. But was he fighting? But did we pay a massive consequence globally for the fact that he lost? Yes. It destroyed everything. And World War II shouldn't have happened. Neither should World War I. And that started with communist Jews in Russia. Like, the whole thing was an overflow of the first Jewish crisis. So Hitler went about it in a certain way. But the thing is, he's a German. The National Workers' Party of Germany is a whole other movement than what we're doing. So we're not Nazis. And we're not trying to do what Hitler did. So to say, if you look at Hitler and go, oh, he was fighting the bad guys too, I like him. Oh, so then you're a Nazi? No. Like, I'm a fan of, if I like Neil Armstrong, does that make me an astronaut? Like, no. It's just like, that's cool. Like, he went to the fucking moon. And Hitler tried to stop the Jews. He failed. They won. They got Europe and America to come and back them up. But the Japanese and the Germans were fighting against the communists and the capitalists.
Yeah, but I explained before that is like why we use words like Nazi, because we do think that ideas like this are dangerous and that we don't want those sorts of things. And so we use the words like Nazi, like almost as a dog whistle to be like, here they are.
Exactly.
We got them. They're the same types of people. They're the same. They're doing the same things.
Yeah, but we're not. But first of all,
you literally just said that you want to do the same things. You literally just said that it's sad that they lost.
I don't want to do the same things. Is your
said,
brain turned off?
You just said that it's sad that he lost.
He fought the bad guys, and the loss was a tragedy for the globe, and it was.
That's what I'm talking about. The same things.
The same. Oh, so no. What you mean is that I want to put Jews in a gas chamber. That's what you mean by the same things.
No.
See, you're not being specific enough.
That's not what I mean. Okay, fair enough. I don't mean that you're like violent in that way. I mean that I think that dehumanizing groups of people will lead to things like that. Not that you want to do that. So
in the way that you're dehumanizing me by calling me a Nazi, because Nazis
and
are
I
less
said
than
that I
human
don't think that I should
most
do it.
People's minds. But
yeah,
then you sat there and you
saying,
smiled and said, "Well, this is why we call you Nazis."
I'm making an analogy to what you're saying. You're saying people call us Nazis, and I'm saying yes, this is why we would call you Nazis. But I don't think we should, because I don't think that we should like enact violence on you guys. So I'm willing to say that I wouldn't do it anymore. But when you say like, oh, they call us Nazis, like it's so unfair, I'm saying I think it is analogous to say that you guys are Nazis, but I don't think it's fair to then turn around and enact violence on you guys.
Yeah, but is everybody who likes rockets an astronaut?
Well, I didn't say it because you like Hitler. I didn't even know you liked Hitler until just now. I'm saying that I.
But you understand my point. I'm saying that if I say that there's a lot that Hitler was fighting the bad guys, and I think that's cool, and you're like, well, this is why we call you Nazis. It's like, well, these guys are going to the moon. I think that's cool. Well, this is why we call you an astronaut. It's like, no, what are you doing?
Yes, in general, yes. If I think people, it's the same with like using words like communist or socialist or like people like that. Like I don't like them. I think they have dangerous ideas, and I think that lots of people will try to hide those ideas, and so I call them communists and Nazis as well. Like it's similar where I think if people have dangerous ideas, I use specific words as a way to make sure that I can group them with the other people who had similar ideas that I think are dangerous as well.
I don't think communist actually is the same thing, even though communists are responsible for far more carnage and death and suffering on the planet than the Nazis were. You can be a communist all day long and nobody will punch you in the face. And you can say that you're a communist all over the internet and post the hammer and sickle and nobody will ban you from your Twitter page.
Yeah, of course.
But Nazi is special. And why is that? It's because of some people. I won't say what group they are. I won't say what they are. It's the Jews. It's because they have the control. And that's the whole issue.
I mean, I don't. Communists didn't go after like specific groups of people, like
Communists
based on
didn't go
ethnicity
after
or
the
religions
Jews.
or something
They
like
didn't
that.
go after the Jews.
They didn't go after any specific groups like that. They went after fascists, yes. But not like religious or like ethnic groups that generally we
So you think
liberal
that's why
society would be
communism
against.
isn't something that we're worried about? It's only because they didn't go after specific groups?
I think it's because people think of it as just a economic system and that's it, which it's not really like it entails like a moral system with it. You necessarily have to be a utilitarian in order to buy into communism, but I think that that's why there's a much bigger difference. When in a liberal society we say you shouldn't attack people based on like color of skin, ethnicity, religion, all of these other things. The communists specifically didn't do that, and so in a liberal society there's not like a huge problem with them as much because they're thought of as an economic system.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, it could be that, but it also could be that we've seen, I don't know how many like Holocaust movies and World War II movies where it's just like Nazis aren't even people. You just mow them down, just massacre them, and you hatefully do it. You ever seen Inglourious Bastards? Like they sit the one guy down. There's that scene. Like, what'd you get these medals on your chest for? Killing Jews? And he goes, courage. And then they beat him to death with a baseball bat. And then at the end of the movie, they get a bunch of Nazis together in a theater and then they set it on fire and they burn them all alive. And those are the heroes who do that. Mm-hmm. So this is our culture, is that Nazis, specifically Germans, they're not even human. They're just beasts with a mind virus of hate for no reason. And they're psychos. And the worst thing in the world is if there could ever be an outbreak of that mind virus again. That's how it's treated. When in reality, we all live with a mind virus currently, and that's what actually needs to be talked about to us. Like, that's what our whole thing is. So the fact that Ye came in like, well, dude, cat's out of the bag, it's out of the bag. But I mean, the cat was always there, though. The point is, the cat was always there. It was that, and I'm not saying that what we need to do is reenact Hitler's actions. That's not the solution. His final solution wasn't final. It didn't work. It just destroyed his entire land. And the price that they paid was like 60 or 70 million Germans died. Like in the bombing of Danzig and Hamburg and Dresden, and the starvation and the rape and torture afterward when the communists came from the east and the allies came from the west. And the prisoners were all released upon the men, women, and children of Germany. It was an absolute slaughter. It was one of the worst things that's ever happened in the freaking world. That happened after Hitler. And that was us. And it's like everybody was pissed off. I mean, World War II was terrible. But let alone the battling in the Pacific and the nuclear fucking bombs on Japan. I mean, it was just like carnage. And this was all because we were fighting back against Jewish control of the world. Like, that's a real thing, because at the end of the day, that's the question. Is that a real thing? And when you find out that it is, and that's what they were fighting against, it's like, damn. And then they lost. And they paid the ultimate price. Their country is destroyed. It's gone forever. That beautiful group of people, the Germanic Empire, all of that architecture, all of that art, all of that culture, gone forever. All of those lives, starved miserably and tragically. 10 times as many as they claim died in the Holocaust. That's how many died in Germany after the war. Because all the men were gone from battle. It was women and children and elderly left, and they starved and froze. And it was like, that's an unimaginable tragedy. So yeah, the outcome was horrible. It was when I say that he failed, that it was a massive tragedy, he failed at getting world Jewry under control and removing the Jewish influence from the power structure. And he also set his country up for absolute destruction. And it was one of the most beautiful countries on the planet, not just like the countryside, but I mean the civilization, the Germanic people. That empire was incredible. Like the human value that was just burnt up. Like
I think they probably should have stopped the Catholics beforehand, and then they wouldn't have had to worry about it in the first place, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, Catholics like outlawing usury only for Christians and then allowing the others to do it instead because they still wanted usury. They still needed it. So they allowed the Jews to do it and then to make empires off of it. That's kind of where all of this came from. So
you're saying the Catholics should have done what Hitler did earlier?
No, we should have stopped the Catholics from, doing that sort of stuff with the country and making laws for just Christians that would allow everybody else to do those things instead.
You think that's the way you interpret it? That's so insane.
Well, I mean, so they outlawed.
The fact that Catholics stuck to Christian treatment of one another, and the Jews weren't beholden to Christian values, and they were willing to extort other humans, you blame that on the Catholics.
Well, the Catholics were doing it beforehand. That's why they had to outlaw it. And then that when they did outlaw it, they still wanted usury. They still needed like black market loaning and stuff like that. Like everybody wasn't Jewish that was getting those things from them. Most everybody was Christian, and Jewish people weren't making a ton of money off Jewish people. They were making a ton of money off Christians. Christians wanted the usury. They wanted to use that. They needed to continue engaging that way. And so
how did it benefit them?
How did it benefit them? They wanted to be able to go outside of banking systems to get money, like loan sharking and stuff like that.
Oh, so like a drug dealer who sells drugs that are illegal, the Jews were selling loans that were illegal. That's what you're saying?
Well, they weren't illegal. They were illegal for Christians.
So then why'd you say it was outside the banking system, like loan sharking?
Because usury is technically considered like unethical loaning. And so when they outlawed
predatory.
Usury.
Yeah,
sure. So when they only outlaw it for Christians to do, but not to engage in, the Christians are still the ones giving all of the Jewish people money. They're still the ones who are making them rich. They're still the ones who are making it to where they're the only ones who can engage in this sort of business practice, and they're making it to where everybody's going to give all of the Jewish people their money.
I find it to be so fascinating that at the end of me giving sort of like a go off on the tragedy of tens of millions of people, women, children, and elderly being raped.
We're talking about what came beforehand.
And freezing to death. There's not even like a moment of pause before you go, it's the Catholics' fault because they let the Jews prey upon people with loans.
Yeah, we're talking about what led to that. You normally do this as well. You like to go back farther to the root of a problem. That's what I'm doing.
So yeah, Hitler should have been a time traveler and gone back in time and changed the policy of the Holy Roman Empire.
I didn't say Hitler. I'm saying in general.
In general,
you should have stopped the Catholics first.
So you're saying
especially from running countries and stuff like that.
So it's the Catholics' fault for letting the Jews do immoral lending practices.
If people needed that service at the time, I think it was necessary for somebody to do it. But to make it to where only certain groups can engage in that way.
People needed it? People needed to pay usurious loans?
How did they get rich? If nobody needed it, how did they get rich?
Needed? If nobody needed it? If nobody needs crack, how do drug dealers get rich?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not understanding what the point is here.
No, your question is, if you're asking me as an answer, you're asking me this question. If nobody needed these predatory loans, how did the Jews get rich? And I'm saying, if nobody needs cocaine, how come cocaine smugglers get rich?
I don't think like cocaine is equatable to money, like people needing to live.
People don't need to pay usurious loan debts, do they? Or Are they enticed into them?
Christians were engaging in usury before this. Otherwise they wouldn't have needed to outlaw it for Christians. So you're making it sound like this is a Jewish thing. It wasn't a Jewish thing. This is a
It's a
thing
way
that everybody
of
engaged
predating
in.
upon your brother, upon your fellow man, and that's why it was outlawed, because it was seen as a way of taking advantage and putting your brother into bondage to you for no reason other than the fortune of the fact that you're holding on to wealth that he doesn't have yet, and now you're actually extracting his wealth in the future for the service of borrowing your wealth today, rather than sharing one to another and holding all things equal, as Christians are intended to do, by the way. You're actually intending to profit for yourself upon the sweat of your brother's back and on his brow. That's sinful. That's wrong. And the Christians said to each other, we won't do this to each other. And if you're going to keep in good standing with the church, you won't be caught taking advantage of your brother in the church. The Jews aren't in the church. The Jews are like, we'll take advantage of these people then.
Personally, I don't find these things like immoral or like wrong. I think that like if people
I know,
are
because you're
going,
godless.
sure, but even
Sure.
like
I mean-
I don't think that there's anything like if people want a service, I think someone should probably provide it to them.
It's the same as prostitution or pornography or drug dealing. You have no qualms about ruining other people's lives for your own profit.
But I'm not the one profiting off of it, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but you don't have any problem with other people doing that then. If somebody ruins my life and they get rich, you're like, well, you should have been smart. They didn't do anything wrong, though.
If we're talking about ruining people's lives, sure. Like just a second ago, you were willing to overlook all of the Jews being murdered, the millions of Jews being murdered, and then looking at the small amount of Germans being murdered right afterwards. So
That's not true.
I think that if
I didn't overlook anything. Don't
you
put that
did,
on
you
me.
made it sound like it was such a sad thing that the Germans got killed afterwards.
It
after
is.
all of the stuff that they did.
It was I was saying it's a massive disaster. We focus so much on 6 million Jews, and that's terrible. Even if that number's true, which by the way, I'm not convinced that it is. I don't think it was anywhere near that number. But also 10 times more than that is who were raped and murdered and starved to death in the winter following the war. So it's like, I'm saying like the tragedy was even bigger than 6 million Jews. It was 10 times bigger than that. I'm saying it was unimaginable. Like you couldn't cry for a week straight and have cried enough tears to actually have dealt with the real trauma of what happened back there. It's something that's, you can't even look at and comprehend the massive carnage that was the fallout from World War II. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't overlooking the suffering of the Jews. Don't do that, please. That's
okay. Well, I'm saying when I say overlooking or something, I don't think that's what I said. But like
I'm
saying like
that,
it's. I'm saying you're mentioning one and not the other, so it seems like you're prioritizing one over the other. But
the one that's 10 times bigger is the one I'm bringing your attention. Hey, by the way, I know we have like Holocaust museums everywhere, and we have movies about the suffering Jews and all the camps and stuff. Whoever talks about the 10 times as many people who died afterwards? Nobody talks about them, and I'm like minimizing. It's like even that, like. You're totally uninterested in 60 or 70 million men, women, children, and elderly dying. That's not.
Yeah, I don't know about this. Yeah, I know that like somewhere around like 4 million Germans died in the war, and 6 million Jews died in the war. But I don't know about what came after from their own actions. I'm unaware of this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And in fact, by the way, when you go look into it and when you learn about it, you'll see that the Nuremberg trials were basically where they like tortured confessions out of Nazis to make this big old story about how horrible the Nazis were as a way of justifying the war crimes that were done in Germany after the war. That's really what the Nuremberg trials were, by the way. They just did this big old show trial to make monsters out of the Nazis, to essentially like dust under the rug this atrocity that happened in Germany at the fallout after the war.
Well, I mean, they went and took over tons of other countries and killed way more than 6 million people in total. Like the amount of like carnage that they enacted upon everybody else in Europe is insanely bigger than what just the Germans went through.
No, it's actually not. No, I mean, you really don't know. You don't know about the massive bombings that happened over the German just residential areas. They weren't bombing German like battle encampments. They weren't bombing artillery productions. They were bombing civilian infrastructure, just like cities, entire cities. Thousands of bombs with these bombing campaigns where they would just carpet bomb, rubble,
that happened
and
in
then
Russia.
they would firebomb after that. And then, I mean, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki is an example of they firebombed Tokyo before that. I mean, it was just like absolute total lack of respect for civilian populations at all. What the Germans were doing was blitzkrieg. They were just going hard right up the middle all the way to fucking Paris, bro. And they would go all the way in and they would swoop around and they would cut off the forces and they would win by rapid like rush, by like a they would blitz and they would go whoop and we control the territory and we win. Will you guys back off? And they kept on like not backing off. And eventually like they were winning so much by that the Allies were like, all right, we're just going to fucking murder all of you. And they just dropped 1 million bombs on the cities of Germany. And the amount, and dude, Hitler never even imagined that people could be so beastly. Hitler was a fucking vegetarian, bro. I mean, he was fighting for his country. I'm not saying he was an angel or something, but I'm saying like, there was a rude awakening that happened in Germany. These people who considered some level of like nobility in their human spirit, they found out that they were fighting against devils in the communists and in the Allies. We were devils to them. We straight up mercilessly murdered hundreds of thousands like at once all the time until we won. That's how we won, was with absolute carnage. They weren't doing that. They were controlling, they were doing strategic, they were one little tiny country. They were making calculated like a knife, like surgical moves, expanding rapidly. Blitzkrieg, that's what it was called. It didn't mean like massively destroy your whole country. It means like rush up the center and grab the strategic stronghold and get advantage and cut off the supply line and blow up a bridge here and there and go quick. That's how they did it. We did just massive fucking waves of murder. That's how we did it. And it was a different thing. And we won. And then the Jews got Israel and America turned into what it is now. So I'm not saying that we should do what Hitler did. And I'm not saying he was an angel. I'm just saying he gets demonized unfairly in a way that if you recognize that, then it's like the temperature comes down around what he actually did. And then when you look at the problems that the other side had and you go, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't a totally one-sided problem. It wasn't just like that one day for no reason, all of Germany went insane. They fell under some sort of like Jungian brain spell and they all went mad with power and they scapegoated all these totally innocent Jewish people. That's not what happened, dude. So you got to get first like the brainwashing out of your mind of like the history you were taught by those who won the war and wrote the history books. And by the way, they made up a lot of stuff when they did that.
Yeah, I was about to say, almost everything I'm reading right now still is like way smaller numbers of what died after the war, in the thousands. Well, I mean, generally, I'm going to trust the experts on these things over like.
Yeah, trust the science, bro.
Well, it's not just I don't just trust science in general. I trust large groups of experts saying the same thing. I trust consensus on things, not just science like in general, but consensus on science or consensus on history.
All right. Well,
I feel like even when you're explaining this, I feel like you're still like overlooking like the roots of the problems of like, Soviet Russia and Hitler and these people kind of like enacting these things in the first place to where a lot of this led to so much other bullcrap afterwards. Like I think it's odd to like continue. Yeah, I do. I feel like you're overlooking those parts when you keep like looking at what happens afterwards or as consequences of that.
Like what? Like where you said that the Catholics are guilty of the Jews being willing to sin and like take advantage of their brothers?
No, that's me again getting to the root of the problem.
The root of the problem is that the Christians aren't willing to exploit each other, but the Jews are. And the Christians can stop the Jews from doing it. If
you think it's wrong and it should be outlawed, then I think you would just outlaw it for everybody. Most countries around that time had outlawed usury, but European countries decided to outlaw it, or under the Pope decided to outlaw it for Christians.
Yeah, but then it turns out that there's always one or two with power that are able to be seduced into some sort of a special privilege for themselves. And there's some sort of scandal that happens. And what happens is when you find that one Christian prince in the Christian territory who has access to the spoils and the treasury of that Christian nation, there's a Jew who's like, hey, if you, out of that treasure, if you'll give me, just do it in dollars, you give them $1 million worth of the gold that all these Christians have from their vast kingdom that they have, I'm going to go out and loan it out and I'll bring back 1.1 million for you. And he goes, ooh, I get an extra 0.1 million for me. And the Jew gets an extra 0.1 for himself on top of that. And so he's now using the Christian gold. And and then there's another prince who wants to set some aside for himself. And he hires a mercenary army to protect the gold. And then it falls into the wrong hands. And yeah, dude, it's sin all the way back. It's like greed all the way back. These are problems. But the thing is, when we go all the way back, it's just as a coincidence. Like Dave Chappelle said, when it's blacks, it's a gang. When it's Italians, it's a mob. But when it's Jews, it's a coincidence. But if you just go all the way back, every time, it's just a coincidence that there's always somebody named Rothschild or Warburg or somebody like that who is Jewish, who's at the head of all of these like massive coincidences.
I'm saying I don't think it's a coincidence. I'm saying we can look at causal links. Even as a Christian, I believe that people are going to sin. People are going to do the wrong things, and that it's on other people around them and brothers and sisters to help each other.
And that sin is going to feed into the power of a Jew by coincidence.
Not by coincidence. This is not a coincidence that pretty much the
I agree
only
with you.
other
I'm saying
white
it sarcastically.
people.
So yeah, it's not a coincidence. Jews receive power from our sin.
No, you're saying that I think it's a coincidence, and I'm saying I don't think it's a coincidence.
I'm
giving you
either.
the root of the problem and showing you causal links to how this happened, and you're just ignoring that and just saying, but they're Jewish, so that's the end of it.
No, I understand what I'm agreeing with you. You don't understand. I'm making a joke about the dummy who thinks it's just a coincidence. You know it's not a coincidence, and so do I. We disagree.
I know it's not a coincidence because we disagree on the reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, can you understand the interpretation that when Christians are tempted into sin, Jews end up having power over us? That's the pattern. And so if you understand the reason for that pattern, it started in the garden with Satan. The point is that Jews have turned themselves over to satanic, Luciferian worship of a false god, which is earthly. And when Christians sin, it gives power to literally the devil, and Jews work like that. Their religion is the religion of the Antichrist. So when we sin, it empowers them. That's why they market essentially vice. Their whole strategy is to demoralize us so that we'll take more vice from them so that they get more power. That's the whole thing in a nutshell.
Do you not believe somebody's going to do it, even if it's not Jewish people? You don't believe someone will be doing these things?
Somebody evil will do it. And
okay,
it just
fine.
Turns out they're
Somebody
the best
evil.
ones at doing evil.
So what is it that makes them?
By coincidentally, it's the Jews who killed Jesus and who have conspired against Christ for 2,000. Coincidentally, it's them who's the best ones at it.
So why are they the best ones at it?
The answer to that question might be above my pay grade, but I do have theories, and because I really believe that we're in a spiritual battle here. Like they have a different spirit than we do. They're operating according to a different spiritual principle, and that spirit aligns with material greed and ruthlessness and harm differently than us. Ours aligns with charity and honesty and integrity, and there's like a whole different thing that we're trying to do, and we end up, when we're not wise, we fall right into the trap of the enemy, and in that trap we become like their lunch, and they gobble us up. And they've gobbled up America. And now that's why they run. When you look at the media, like, why is the media so corrupt? Oh, you look at all the people who run it, and you can go, oh, well, it's just because they have higher IQs. It's not that, dude. Oh, it's just because they all go to Hebrew school or something, and they all have a different culture. It's not that. It's because they're vicious, literally meaning that they deal in vice, and they sell smut. If you look at the roots of pornography, it's all Jews. It's not coincidence. If you look at why our comedians have turned from being like Johnny Carson and Bob Hope, where they're telling like quippy little jokes and little play on words and a little bop-a-doo-da and a dance and like everybody laughs and it's kind of like wholesome and we're having fun, to now it's just like, ooh, cum and my dick and my pussy and like, oh, it's like Jews took over the comedy clubs. Like that's literally why it's like that now. And like on and on and on and on and on and on. Like why it's just coincidentally every time something becomes straight up evil and destructive, it's when the Jews got in control of it. And so you're right. The Catholics shouldn't have let the Jews continue to do this sinful predatory lending upon each other. They should have weeded that out. If they could have, I bet they would have. But like, this is something we've been struggling with. We've been plagued on the earth for thousands of years with this companion that we share the earth with who doesn't mind like sucking our blood. And they straight up, if you go to LA and go to the Holocaust Museum, it's called the Museum of Tolerance. That's what they named their museum. It's like, we want you to tolerate us while we kind of like leech off of you and parasite you. And like, we'll poison you and put you to sleep and suck your blood. And we basically become kind of like, you're the host and we like live off of your life energy. And we're just like a tiny little fraction of the population of you. And we just take we extract your wealth and we live luxuriously and we have islands and yachts and we don't really do any real labor. I mean, some of us are dentists and some of us are surgeons because we're high IQ. But most of us are bankers and most of us are like media, like copywriters, and we're executives and we're Wall Street people and in hedge funds and we're doing Sam Bankman-Fried scams and we're doing Bernie Madoff scams. Like, all the way up into the government, and we're writing special deals for the special super PACs, and we're dealing with lobbyist groups, and we're doing special like CIA. And the head of the CIA is a Jew. It's like we're all in the intelligence agencies, and we're just like, it's like by coincidence, it's like Jewish people doing that.
I mean, you keep saying they're doing these evil things, but again, Christians were doing them before the Catholic Church outlawed it. So it has nothing to do with them being Jewish or a virtue of being Jewish that they.
Oh, so you're telling me that there was like
there
was a global banking cabal of Christians before the Jews became the global banking cabal?
No, I'm saying there was no global banking cabal of anybody until this happened.
Right.
And I'm saying everybody engaged in these things until only Jewish people could. Like
Right. So once there was a special avenue by which the Jews could monopolize this type of sin that Christians were unwilling to do, they used it to control the world.
Sure. Like I think that they're obviously in these positions, but there's reasons that they're in these positions.
It's
there doesn't seem to be any evidence that they're working together.
It's because they don't see us as human. Because they see us as less than them.
The things that you consider harm, I don't think are harmful. Like I'm a capitalist. I like capitalism. I think that making it to where we get the things that we want is like the best way of going about things. Like I think if I want something and somebody provides it to me,
you're a symptom of the Jewish world. They have rotted your brain, and you're now like a pothead retard. So you don't see that it's a problem. But like no offense, and I'm not trying to like hurt your feelings or be mean, but I'm saying like from my perspective, it's like I know. I'm just throwing that just to be disclaimer. But I mean,
nobody's offended by being called a retard or
epic
degenerate or any of these things.
Well, some people actually are. But yeah, you're almost at the point where you have no conscience. So like I could call you anything and you'd be like, I don't care. Like I don't even care about having any sort of integrity or nobility or character or personal.
It's not that we just have completely different systems for evaluating things. So like I would expect somebody with a completely different system for evaluating something would come to different conclusions than me.
All right. Well, my impression of you is that you sort of are a bit of a ghost. Like it all just seems to like just pass right through you. It's like, man, well, nothing really matters. Like we're all stardust anyway. So it's just like, be happy. And if you can't be happy, then I mean, that's fucked and like, oh, well. But it seems like the level of nihilism that seems to exude from you gives me an impression that it would actually be hard to really hurt your feelings because there's not really much there in you. That's the impression I get from you personally.
I'm a bit
Um,
nihilistic. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I like, for the most part, the things that I care about are like what's best for people, what's best for society. And if I don't have this like initial doctrine that says this is what you're supposed to believe is messed up, but instead I look at it and I decide for myself what is harmful, what actually hurts, what actually causes, bad things for society, then instead I'm going to come to different conclusions than, my book telling me this is what's supposed to be harmful or this is what I'm supposed to think is harmful.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep this going. This is I'm enjoying this conversation, but I also want to milk some money out of these pay pigs.
Yeah, we
real
got
quick.
some
So
questions.
I want to, no, actually we don't. And that's the problem. I want to remind everybody,
Guys,
please, it's
what are you
okay to
doing?
interrupt. Send in the super chats. Send me some money. Send some questions, some comments, some agreement, some disagreement, some compliments, some criticism, some antagonism. Send it all in. $3, $5, $10 is even better. $10 if you're cool. More than that if you're super cool. Powerchat.live/BigTech. Make the Power Chat alert go off, and then we'll talk about what you want. Come up with a good question. Send me some money. Let's get it going. There's 135 watching. I know there's 5 or 6 of you who can do it right now. Let's get the bell ringing. Come on. We're an hour and a half in. All right. So there's the commercial. I didn't want to do it to you guys, but look at the green. Look at the gray bar. It's totally winning. I have a tiny little sliver of green. We got to hit this goal. So if I got to run a commercial, if I got to remind you, wake you up, hey, let's get the donos going. Come on. This isn't for free. This is cozy.
Hot dogs
Nobody's
for
paying
sale.
me.
Sent
Let's go.
$5.
Here
Hey,
it
Tom,
comes.
Besides Mark's,
It's coming
whose
through.
books DID those awful
I'm gonna read
NSDAP
this
Guys, don't
to
let
you.
him be
burn.
predatory
If you
towards
don't
you,
know, say
okay?
so.
He's trying
I'm gonna read
to
this
BigTech will
to
fill
you.
you in on
He's trying to
DR
milk
Magnus
all of you
Hirschfeld
guys.
and
This
how
is
IT
evil. Don't let
correlates
him
to
do it.
today's degenerate Vimerica.
No, I'm not, Tom. All right, everybody on the stream heard that, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Hey, Tom, besides Mark's, whose book did those awful NSDAP youth burn? If you don't know, say so. Then Big Tech. Oh, sorry, it's so small. Well, let me just zoom in like this. Oh yeah, okay. If you don't know, then Big Tech will fill you in on Dr. Magnus
Hot dogs for
Hirschfeld
sale. Sent $5.
and how it
Hey,
correlates
Tom,
to
besides
today's
Mark's,
degenerate
whose books DID those awful
Why
NSDAP
America?
youth burn.
Great
If you don't know,
question.
say so. Then Big Tech will fill you in on DR Magnus
is it
Hirschfeld
playing
and how
twice?
IT correlates
Yeah,
to
it played
today's
twice.
degenerate Vimerica.
Let me know if I need to refund one of those, or you could just let me have both of those $5 donos. That'd be cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, so we got hot dogs for sale coming through. Keep them coming in. So yeah, the question was about the book burnings in the Weimar Republic when the
Magagru
Nazis were
sent
just getting
$3.
going.
Both you guys
Do
have
you know what they
immaculate
were-
bald head game.
Yeah, all right. We got another one. Magagru said, "Both of you guys have immaculate bald head game." Let's go. Thank you. Appreciate that.
What
So-
was the name of the show? The bald.
The big super cool guy bald head show.
You go.
That's what the show should be called. Epic. Let's go. All right. Powerchat.live /Big Tech. It's right there on screen. Right there. Don't slow down. Keep it going. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's keep those going. Let's get halfway there. We're at an hour and a half through the show. Let's get up to the halfway point. We got to hit $200. Let's get up to $100. Come on. Is that too much to ask? I see Nutrient Enjoyer saying I'm a broke nigga. All right. Well, get a freaking job, dude, so you can send me some money. Go. Like right now, go do something. Go make some sandwiches or something.
So, were you going to tell me about the Nationalist Socialist book burnings, or?
Yeah. Do you know much about that? What books they were burning and why?
Nope.
All right. Well, the long and short of it is that there was a bunch of filth being passed around in Weimar Germany. Most of it was pornography. Some of it we would loosely call pornography today, which would just be like salacious, like lewd fiction. A lot of stuff that was about sex, things that had that were like justifying adultery, homosexuality, writings about that, poetry that was scandalous, things like that. Forms of art that were essentially considered degenerate by that culture that was trying to protect the innocence of their children and their family and the integrity of their homes, not trying to implant ideas within their women's minds of flights of fancy and romance and all sorts of like just scandalous sex. They wanted to protect the families. They wanted to just keep it intact to where mom and dad could have kids and raise them, and everybody was cool. Keep cohesive, homogenous, like more or less puritanical society that was aimed at righteous living. But we found that there was all this stuff coming up through in the Weimar Republic of Germany, and especially in the downtown. You could go there and find any form of vice that you wanted. It would, like Amsterdam, eat your heart out. And the problem is, just by coincidence, the same thing with the banking. The Christians weren't willing to do that stuff. Christians didn't write those books. Christians didn't start brothels. Christians didn't do burlesque shows. Christians didn't write novels about adultery and divorce. But the Jews did, because they are not Christians. Like, they just don't think that way. And they're like, well, this is how I think, and you guys can read about it. And in fact, just like Mr. Girl with Max, he's out there like, let's all think about all the craziest stuff you can imagine and talk it all out. Regardless of how it affects all of the people that are watching his show, regardless of the, the persuasive aspect of what he's doing to the minds of all the people that he's like getting his tentacles into.
Religious Jews aren't okay with that stuff, though.
Anonymous sent $5. The cause of World War II isn't quite cut and dry either. There were serious trespasses against Germany by Poland.
Hear it.
And in
I
fact,
could play
if you're
it so
a
that you
careful
would hear it.
student, you'll
My
notice the
superchats are usually pretty good.
CIA/Dutch trading company / Mossad cabal was
I don't
very
think they'll
hawkish
break
towards Germany.
TOS. I think I'm going to actually just open it up for you. Unless you don't want to roll the dice.
I'd rather not roll. I'm already on the edge over here.
All right, fair enough. It just creates a lull while it's playing on my side.
The other people who work for me and help me with all of this stuff get frustrated that I take a lot of chances on the things that they're also working hard on. And so I don't want to make it to where they're working hard on my channel and then I do something stupid to get banned. So,
by the way, you got your background looking pretty cool at this point. It already was kind of cool that you had like a Joker poster and stuff. But that effect you have going back there is pretty epic.
Thanks. Yeah. I just like bought this little freaking, it's like a kid's star thing that like puts like stars all over your room and everything. And I got rid of the stars and the planets and everything and just kept the planet dust. And yeah, it's freaking.
Hot Dogs for Sale sent $5 to dovetail on that. Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld was a gay foot fetishist trans researcher.
I'm going to read these last
and it was
two
his
to you.
books burning in the famous photos.
Let's go.
He performed the first, failed, male-to-female surgery and set the trans movement back decades.
All right. We got a series of messages that dovetail on each other. The first one says, the cause of World War II isn't quite cut and dry either. There were serious trespasses against Germany by Poland. And in fact, if you're a careful student, you'll notice the CIA/Dutch trading company, Mossad cabal, was very hawkish toward Germany. That's true. There was it was basically like, there was a setup. I've read all about it. The names aren't easy to recall all the time, but World War II, like the reason, this is the thing. It's like, if you believe even for a second that World War II happened because Hitler was a maniac and the Germans just got caught up in some sort of like fever pitch of mania in their minds, you're retarded. Like, that's not, I mean, it doesn't mean you're retarded, but I mean, like, you've been tricked, you've been duped, you've been hoodwinked. That's not it. That's obviously such a simplistic explanation that it can't be true. And then when you really learn about it, like, oh, it's not true. That's not why. There were so many factors at play. And in fact, Hitler tried several times beforehand to make peace treaties and to establish peace. And he was explaining his maneuvers to people around him and looking for a way to get it done peacefully. But there were a lot of pressures converging at once, and it was a flow over of like momentum from World War I that really had nothing to do with it.
Google images for Dresden bombing
I'm going to read
showing
the
entire
one
city's rubblized.
next.
He says he trusts the experts.
Yeah.
Does he trust Wikipedia images? BT.
Tell you what, I'll just read these. This is a really good one that came in from Epton too. Okay, so the next one from Hot Dogs for Sale says, to dovetail on that, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld was a gay foot fetishist trans researcher. This is real, by the way. A gay Jew with a foot fetish who was researching transsexual, surgery and hormone therapy in Germany. Most of the books that were being burned in that famous photo of the big pile, those were him. He was doing trans hormone therapy and surgery on not on other Jews, but mind you, he was mostly finding dissatisfied youth in the degenerated post World War I Weimar Germany, where they were going through a depression and stuff in the 30s, when everybody was going through depression, or late 20s and 30s, and doing like trans experiments on them. And he was writing books about it and about like the end of sex and all sorts of stuff. And they went and got all of his books from everywhere all around and piled them all up and burned them as a symbol of like, we're not doing this here. Like, no. And so they weren't just, so like, yeah, if you're totally on board, like, yeah, pro gay, trans, foot fetish, predatory surgery on youngsters and stuff, like everybody should be able to do it if they want. But it wasn't just like they weren't just burnt. Like, I had the impression when I was a kid that they were burning books because they didn't want people reading. Like, that's essentially like the level of instruction I got in school. They were burning books to keep the people stupid or something like that. They were just monsters. Like, bring all the books out. We're burning them. You're all a bunch of slaves and you have to join the Nazi army. And it's just like, we're going to fight the world and we're going to get the most tall and strong and blonde, blue-eyed among us and breed them and replace everyone. Like, I thought they were just monsters. Because nobody really taught me anything, And it's only if you go look it out yourself, you go, oh, it was actually kind of like a sensible thing. Even if you don't agree with it, it made sense what they were doing.
I mean, it still sounds like the same thing to me. Even the way you're explaining it, it still sounds exactly the same. Both things sound the same. They wanted to take certain ideas out of the zeitgeist so you couldn't learn about them, and wanted to make sure that they were able to brainwash you with the right stuff and not let you hear other things.
So you think, to you, Tom, an extreme doctor with a hypersexual focused doctor who's doing trans surgery, which is literally what this guy was. And he's doing cutting edge therapies on sexual gender transitions. And they went, no, we don't want to do that here. Taking those books and burning those, that's the same as burning all books to keep everybody stupid?
I would say burning any books to make sure that people can't learn about those things. So like there's like tons of like really immoral surgery, or not surgeries, experiments that have been done on children and crap like that I don't think anybody should ever do. But I would go read about the experiments and see what they did and the conclusions that they came to and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, like I'm not gonna be like, oh, there's information here, and I'm gonna not read it because I don't like the way they went about it. Like, no, if there's information there that could actually be useful or give me some sort of insight, like I already know before I come talk to you that I disagree with a lot of the stuff that you say, and I think a lot of it's wrong and messed up, but I'm still gonna sit here and talk to you about it anyway.
If having those books available to everyone is going to impose, what if it was able to be determined, and I'm not saying that it is, but let's say that we had like an AI with all knowledge, an oracle that sees the future, even a magical device. It's the Thanos glove of knowledge, and we can go to it and ask it, hey, does having this set of books in our culture, like going around in the libraries, being passed among the academia, will this harm our culture and cause us harm and like harm our children and our families? And it goes, yes, absolutely it will. Is it still good to have the books?
I don't know, because I would say that if that's the case, we should just do a better job at educating people while also like right now, there's lots of people who take the ideas that you push and say they shouldn't be allowed on YouTube, they shouldn't be going to schools, they shouldn't be talking to people, nobody should hear these things. I say, no, let's hear them out. I think I know better. I think that I can push back pretty well. I think that I can give you more information. And so let's go ahead. Let's hear them out. Let's let them say what they want. I'm not afraid of it because I feel like I've got truth on my side. And so let's hear everybody. Let's hear all of them. Let's hear all the ideas.
Okay, so same scenario though. The Thanos glove of wisdom. You go and you ask it, hey, is me talking to big tech and hearing him out, is that going to bring the world to an end and like kill everybody in a horrible way? And it says, yes, it will. This is going to end the whole world if you have this conversation. Would you still?
Yeah,
have
sure.
It?
If I had like a time machine and I knew that it was going to end the world, I would not do it.
So then there is a limit that you're willing to accept to when free speech is a good idea.
When time machines are built, yes, I will get to that point.
Is there any place before time machines where you could also come to an agreement that this type of speech if we come to believe that it's going to harm us, should we still do it?
I mean, again, like I know that there are lots of ideas already that I believe are harmful, but I still want those ideas out there. I feel like what's worse than allowing somebody to hear an idea and then pushing back against it is allowing them to hear it and having nobody there to actually educate them on what this idea really is and what it means and what it could do and all of those other things. That is much, much worse. And so if we burn all the books and we say, you know what, we're going to get rid of all of these, but somehow you find it somewhere else later on, and now you're like, what? They were lying to me. They've been trying to keep this from me. This is how I was far right for a long time. This is how I ended up there, is that I thought like, oh my goodness, like all of this information, I didn't know this. They didn't give me these ideas. Why did they keep this from me? And so like it starts to make you like think like this is weird. There's all of a sudden a lot more information, a lot more to the world than I thought. And if instead I had been introduced with those ideas and the other ideas at the same time, I would have had a much more well-rounded picture of the world.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's so you're speaking from yourself though, and I get it. That's appropriate.
Well, I'm saying I think that's the way things
level.
should work
For everybody.
Yeah, I think like everybody should hear all ideas and be able to engage with them responsibly.
How do you get people to be able to engage with them responsibly?
Schools, colleges, stuff like that. You have people who you know are experts on the issues, who have a lot of information on it. And so like even like churches will pastors like, oh, these people they're not going to pretend nobody sins. They're not going to pretend you're not going to be tempted. They're not going to pretend that none of this stuff happens, but they're going to talk to you about it and try to prepare you for what it's going to be like when it does happen and give you, information and say, this is what you should do. This is how you should think, all that sort of stuff.
I'm going to ask you some more kind of rhetorical hypotheticals here because I want to explore this with you a little bit to guide it into the place where I'm a little bit down the road. I want to bring you to where I'm at thinking about this. In light of what you've just said, something like, and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, I'm not trying to straw man you, but everybody should have access to all information all the time and be able to deal with it responsibly, right? All people.
Mm-hmm.
What about children?
I think there are appropriate things for children at appropriate ages. Depends. Like, I wouldn't want to go and start like showing kids like porn and being like, this is what happens when you choke your wife and like, no.
But why not?
Definitely not.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't know, but like, what's the reason?
Well, based on what's appropriate, what they can and can't understand at certain ages.
To what? Oh, they can. So what if what if there was a way that somebody developed to help a 3-year-old understand it? Would you then do it?
I don't know, because mainly the issue with like doing sexual things around kids is that they can't understand them. They don't have the capacity to understand. They don't have the same feelings yet. They don't have like the ability. Their brains don't have the ability to really like think through things or to consent to things or to know what's what. And so I would say like, yeah, if they're capable of understanding it and having like a full well-rounded idea of it, then sure. But that's currently not the case.
So things in due time, there's times when it's inappropriate because it would be harmful, right, to the child. Essentially, at the end of the day, it's like because we might be doing some harm on the child here. we might be traumatizing the child's state of mind. It might be too innocent at this age to deal with something that's sort of like, well, I mean, I would call it sin. I might call it smut. I might call it filth. We might call it perversion. But there's no. Why would we explain adult perversion to an innocent child? Right? Like that seems inappropriate.
Yeah.
So, why then?
But not because it's perversion, but because they're not capable of understanding.
Right,
because it's still perversion when you're an adult, but you should understand it.
But the end isn't really because they can't understand. It's because as a result of them not being able to process it or understand, as you're saying, it might actually harm them.
Right. Yes.
So the end reason is because it might actually harm the child.
Yeah.
It might freak them out. It might put weird thoughts in their minds. It might like actually pervert their own minds and give a twisted sense of self. There's all sorts of who knows what can happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then, in this Germanic, mostly Christian empire, there's a homosexual Jew who's doing sex experimentation surgery and hormone therapy on people, and he's promoting it in his books to this more or less innocent civilization. And these people deem that, hey, if this gets out here, this might do some harm, just like showing that stuff to a child. If this guy's promoting this all over the place, this is going to harm this thing that we hold dear. Let's protect the child. Let's protect the nation. Let's protect the culture. The culture is going to be harmed by introduction of this perversion. It's not ready. This is not right. And by the way, and it's not that one of us who's trusted, it's not that like some priests came together and discovered that we need an innovation in this field. It's not like some leading scientists discovered that there would be an advantage to our culture if we experiment in hormone therapy. There was a perverted Jew running around profiting off of these crazy ideas in his book. And they were like, no, not here, not now, not the place. We ain't doing that. And you're like, no, that's bad to suppress it. Don't you see the analogy?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. You're saying that
So the analogy is that protecting the culture is like protecting the child, protecting the innocence, because the culture literally is full of children, by the way. It's full of young men and young women. It's full of actual like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, children. It's full of Christians who aren't thinking the way that a gay Jew is thinking. They don't have a mind frame for this type of thing, and those authorities looking in are seeing if this person, who by the way isn't a trusted person, this is a person from a different culture, from a different background, with a whole different way of thinking, essentially a foreigner among us, with a sexual perversion, he's homosexual, and a fascination with gender therapy, whatevers. He's writing all these books and promoting this idea in Germany, and they want to protect the culture. The same way I would want to protect my child from being exposed to things that are not right for the child. And if there was some reason why we needed to, once it's time to explain the birds and the bees to my child, I don't want it to be like an outsider. I don't want it to be somebody who I don't know and don't trust to do it. I want it to be me or somebody I absolutely trust, someone who I know is going to protect the innocence and to like keep respect and integrity with me and my child. That's the person I want explaining those things. It's a beautiful and a sacred thing. I don't want some like creep off the street. I don't want a homeless, like sex fiend prostitute coming and explaining to my son how sex works. And I don't want a homosexual Jew explaining to my Christian civilization about how to like gender swap. Don't you understand that it's like totally sensible?
Well, no, because you're acting like you're still a child when you're a grown adult. I'm not a freaking child. You might be. I'm not a child. I can decide for myself.
Bro, we're not talking about grown adults. We're talking about the civilization. The civilization is the baby. It's the child. It's the innocent. It's the thing that you want to protect.
In your analogy, it is not in reality.
Yeah, that's the analogy I'm making.
Yeah, but I'm saying in reality, we're not actually children. We're people. We're individuals. We listen to things, we decide for ourselves. Like if that was the case, you would not believe any of the things that you believe. It all would have been burnt out of our society. Mein Kampf is gone. Like, the Bible's gone. Like, all of these things are gone because somebody else decided for us. And instead, I want the ability to decide for myself.
Regardless of the cost to everything around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like freedom is insanely important, and there are lots of costs to it. I see parents insanely harmed by guns being brought to their schools and people getting shot up all the time, and I think it's a tragedy, but I also still believe in the right for people to own guns.
The analogy is that even though sometimes there's a freak occurrence where some people die, we don't want to take away guns. Therefore, we want to keep all information available to all people at all times except for children.
I'm saying that, yeah, freedom has a cost to it, and it's a huge cost and it's a huge burden, but it's better than the alternative. It's like when I forget, I think Churchill said, democracy is the worst system except for everything else. Like, freedom kind of sucks, and it's got a lot of cost to it.
Churchill sucked. Churchill was a war criminal who sucked.
Well, you guys. Anyways, the point is that, like, yeah, these things kind of suck and they have problems, but they are also like as good as it gets.
Yeah. What about the idea that there's everything has a time and a place? And are you familiar with the idea that even in the origins of democracy, which is like Plato's Republic and old Rome, even there they had a clause for when there's an emergency, it's appropriate for a tyrant to emerge, even just temporarily, to quell the emergency, like a rebellion or an uprising or a natural disaster. They needed to be able to bypass democracy for the sake of expediency so that they could overcome an issue and then revert control back to the Senate. Do you know that?
No.
Should look into it. It's interesting. So that's basically like the emergency clause. Like, everything's cool. You're supposed to act one way, but if there's a fire in the building, it's totally different. Everybody get the fuck out, pull the alarm, get the extinguisher out, sprinklers go on. Like, you don't want to live in the fire sprinkler world where there's the sprinklers are on. The sprinklers aren't supposed to be on all the time, only when there's a fire. In the same way, we don't want a tyrant all the time, but only when there's an emergency. So all things in due time. And so when there's an emergency, when there's a particular type of corruption that arises, when things get out of control, when there's runaway inflation, when there's rumors of wars all over the world, when they're releasing super viruses, when they're locking us all down, a million reasons, I could go on and on and on. When foreigners from another land have taken over all of our institutions, those are the times. Or perhaps in Weimar Germany, when everything was like upside down and they were being pressed by the communists on the east, and they were entering economic calamity. Once in a while, the idea is not to maintain freedom and democracy at all costs, even when the ship is sinking. It's like, would you be willing to give it up even just for a little while so that we could survive and then like do it again afterward and like right the ship and get us back on the right course and like clean the slate a bit, like clean house, like let's put everything on hold and clean this place up and then get back to business. Every job I've ever had, that's how places run. You're at the factories going, but then we shut down and we push the brooms around and we clean the machine and we take the belt off and replace the belts and grease the wheels, and then you turn it all back on again. It's like you gotta get. That's how it feels to us. So bringing it back around to Ye. We all feel like we're in that kind of moment. That's why we supported Trump. He said that he was going to go and throw a hand grenade in there. He said he was going to go in and say, "You're fired," and drain the swamp and be our champion and build a wall and like reorient the national energy and the whole spirit. But then it was a little different than that. But that's what he said, and it awakened that idea for everybody. So we promoted a push behind Trump. It wasn't because we all believed Trump was an honest man. I mean, come on. It's not because we thought that he was the smartest guy for the job. I mean, come on. It was because he was the one with the strength of will and the national prowess and the burn it to the ground, I don't need your money kind of attitude. It's like, yo, go in there. We need a man who's going to go be the strong man and get it going the right way. And then we can get back to kind of like the right thing. So bringing it back around to the Ye question and saying that he loves Hitler and stuff, can you understand why it's like, all right, we're now getting to the point where when it was just Nick and his webcam in his parents' basement and a bunch of Zoomers who were just like promoting him, and they were trying to separate from all of the Heil Hitler type of people who were carrying swastikas and sidearms and wearing khakis, and they were all like fat retards. And he's trying to do a different thing. At that time, it was like, let's not do the Hitler thing. Let's not talk about him. Let's not say we like him. Let's not promote that among us, because it tends to be a runaway train for the dum-dums who don't understand what we're doing. We're doing something else. But then there does come a time when you get a literal mega superstar billionaire with national prowess and who's a living legend, and he's willing to come alongside you, and he says it, and he's black. It's like, all right, now maybe we can say it, actually. Now maybe we can actually have this conversation. And by the way, we're kind of at the point where it doesn't matter anymore anyway, because they already released the super virus and jabbed all of our kids with vaccines and stole the election. So now it's kind of like, can we talk about it now? And so that's, in a way, so that's the point. It's that it's not, your first question to me was like, is he just opportunistically like riding on the coattails of Kanye, even though he's bipolar or something? It's like, no, dude, Ye is literally a miracle. That's how it seems to us. And we're unironically behind it and amazed that it's happening. Which doesn't mean that we're trying to do Hitler 2.0. We're not trying to do a Holocaust, which, by the way, isn't the only thing Hitler did, if that's even a real thing. Holocaust means burnt offering. It's sort of like a legend that the Jews made up. But the point is, we're not trying to do Blitzkrieg 2.0. We're not trying to do Kristallnacht. We're not trying to do, National Socialism, swastikas, banners over the Golden Eagles and rallies. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to like awaken everybody to maybe let's not trust these people so much anymore. These people who run the media, these people who run the banks, these people who are at the high levels of all of our schools, and these people who are XYZ. It's not just a coincidence, guys. These people shouldn't actually be trusted. Let's stop voting for them. Let's not letting them control our currencies. Let's stop letting them control the narratives in all of our media institutions. It's hypnotizing all of the masses. Come on, guys. Let's get this thing under control. Let's do something about this, whether it's just some regulations or even just an increase in the national consciousness. Let's at least be able to have the conversation before they take everything from us.
I mean, again, I'm happy having the conversation, and I'm happy to hear people out. Those are like those things are things that I'm perfectly fine with. Those are not things that I was ever against in the first place. But I also I also see like the differences between what Nick wants and what Nick wants to do, between what Kanye wants and what Kanye wants to do, because Kanye is heading down more of a almost like a Black Hebrew Israelite path with a lot of the stuff that he's talking about. And I know that they intersect in some places, but they also diverge pretty greatly in a lot of other places, right?
Yeah, Nick's a Catholic, and Ye knows nothing about Catholicism. He even admits he's kind of like a new Christian. He's always loved Jesus because his mom loved Jesus, I think. And he's just like, yo, me and Jesus, we're tight, I believe. And I love the idea of love and forgiveness and having a purpose for your life. I'm just like imagining the type of Christian that he might be, but I don't really know. But Nick is from a whole other level of understanding what Christianity is. And, but the Black Hebrew Israelite thing, it's like, honestly, to me, like you might be familiar, Jesus himself in the Bible is saying, like when the disciples are coming to him, there's a part where they come to Jesus and they're like, Master, check it out. There's some guy in another town that we found, and he's doing miracles. And he's saying that you sent him. He's drawing great crowds and he's teaching them. And he's saying that he's from you. And a lot of people are following him. Should we do something about this? They're basically like, there's a grifter. There's a Jesus grifter in this other town. Do you know this passage I'm talking about? They're like, what do we do? He's not sanctioned by you. He's not part of us. He's not anointed by you. He's a scam artist. What do we do? And do you remember what Jesus said? I should look up exactly what the verse is. I'm like paraphrasing, but this is exactly how it goes down. Jesus goes, look, don't worry about it. If he's not against us, he's for us. It's like so profound. If they're not against us, they're for us. And if you're not for us, you're against us. So the thing is, if you're the wrong kind of Christian, you're still for us. If you're promoting Jesus, like in a weird, like if you're a Mormon, or if you're a Jehovah's Witness, or if you're a Black Hebrew Israelite, if you're a Messianic Jew, if you're pro-Jesus, you're pro-Jesus. You're on Team Jesus. If you're a straight up against Jesus, like a militant atheist, or if you're essentially like the main religion that's against Jesus, by the way, is the Jews. Like even the Muslims say that Jesus is like a revered prophet. They're not against Jesus. The Jews are against Jesus. There's like one group who's like, we hate Jesus, and it's them. Like that's it. And Jesus was explicit. He's like, if you're not against us, you're for us. That includes Muslims. That includes all the different sects of Christianity. Now, is there a true passed on apostolic tradition within one original church, which is the universal church? Yes. But if you're not against it, you're for it, was literally what Jesus said. I don't know if that's in accordance with church magisterium, if I'm being heretical by saying that, but that's literally what Jesus himself says in the Gospels. So that's the way I see it. And that's the way I see Ye. That's the way I see Kai Clips on Cozy. He's a Mormon. That's how I see everybody else. If you're pro-Jesus, like if you're reading Jesus and you're like, yo, that's for me. I like that. I want to be on board. But you're in a weird version of it. Like, I don't care. If you're a Jew, you're essentially like, no, I don't like Jesus. Jesus is fake. I actually straight up reject Jesus. That's what Judaism is. It's being against Jesus. There's a rejection of, we're waiting for Messiah and it's not him. It's going to be somebody else. We're sticking to the old laws of Moses. We reject this whole new covenant, the Holy Spirit. No. We don't want anything to do with that. That's Judaism. So it's like, that's the only ones we have a problem with. And it's straight up because they just straight up are anti-Christ.
I mean,
what do you want to do?
From what I understand from the Bible, it says that if you are neither hot nor cold, you are lukewarm. And if you are lukewarm, I spit you out of my mouth. It says you are either completely for me or you are against me. You are either with us or you're against us. You are either completely on board or you're not even close to being on board.
The Black Hebrew Israelites seem pretty, they don't seem very lukewarm. To me, they seem pretty pumped. And the Mormons too. The Mormons are like straight up like doing temple practices and they're going to church. They're going on missionary trips all over the world. They're wearing name tags. They're freaking serious. It's the Jews who are just like, I don't care anything about Jesus. Talk about lukewarm. You know what I'm saying? They have absolutely, they couldn't give a shit about Jesus at all.
I mean, they see, if anybody has ever been anti-white, I would say it's the Black Hebrew Israelites. Those,
I don't care if people are anti-white as much as I care that people are anti-Christ. Honestly, that's the main issue. Because honestly, I think racial issues can be overcome through Christ. So if you're pro-Christ, we can talk. If you're anti-white, but you're pro-Christ, we could probably still sit down and break bread together and talk it out. But if you're anti-Christ, probably no amount of bread breaking is going to work because you're just straight up like evil. So this is the problem with the Jew. It's like the Jew is like, the Jew will sit there and pit the blacks and whites against each other all day. And if you try to talk to them, they'll just sit there. It's just like, what's with these people?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my experiences with Jews, they seem to help white people more than anything else.
Mark 9:38-41. Would you pull up what that says?
Yeah.
And then Luke 9:50. I think it's a recounting of the same occurrence in two different gospels.
Wait. Whoever is not against us is for us. Teacher said, John, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we told him to stop because he was not one of us. Do not stop him, Jesus said, for no one. Sorry, hold on. Jesus said, for no one who does a miracle in my name can in the next moment say anything bad about me. For whoever is not against us is for us. Truly I tell you, anyone who gives you a cup of water in my name because you belong to the Messiah will certainly not lose their reward.
There you go. Even if you're just giving out cups of water in the name of Jesus, you're on the team. It's like pretty simple. And then if you go to Luke 9:50, you get the same thing.
But I think what he's saying there is if you're doing something good, it's still good. Like if you're doing something that's helpful, it's still helpful. But when I'm talking about like what is, lukewarm or something like that, like we're talking about people who are actually for God. For a long time, one of the issues that I had with a lot of people are people who called themselves Christian, but got online and would represent Christianity in a very demonic and derogatory way. And it made it less likely to where people would come to Christ because they were very unchristian online. And it seems like all they're doing is just giving Christianity a bad name, or anybody who does look at them and say that's a real Christian, they have a very twisted idea of what Christianity is. And so I would say if people are looking at the Black Hebrew Israelites and saying, oh, those are the real followers of Christ, those are the real Jews, those are the people who really know what's going on, they're only giving them a twisted idea of what Christianity is and only making it less likely to where they could actually come to God or to Christ.
I bet this is why you're not a Christian anymore, because you're actually just a judgmental prick. Just kidding. But by the way,
I think being a Christian is being judgmental, but sure.
Right. I know. It's literally the opposite, by the way. It's being forgiving. It's being a Christian, not being judgmental.
Yeah, you can be forgiving and judgmental. Those are the same.
No,
those aren't.
It's not.
It's analogous.
It's judge not, lest ye be judged. Is the literal.
We will be judged, so we do judge.
No, judge not is the admonition.
Lest ye be judged.
Yeah, so that you don't end up being judged, don't judge people. And so that God can forgive you, forgive everybody.
It says
just straight up forgive, bro, so that you can be forgiven. And don't judge so that you won't also be judged.
How can I forgive somebody if I have not judged that they have done something wrong in the first place? Especially with brothers in Christ, you have to hold them accountable more than anybody else. Those are the people that you look out for. And if you are going to forgive somebody, you must decide first that they are wrong. Judging is insanely important within Christianity.
Disagree. I think you're wrong, and I think you need to actually think on that and have like a breakthrough for yourself and have like a spiritual insight moment, like a come to Jesus moment where you go, oh, wait a minute. I was actually judging first and then forgiving when it's supposed to be the other way around. It's you lead with grace. You don't lead with the sword. And then
I can turn the other cheek without judging, but I don't know that I can decide to forgive somebody if I haven't decided that they've done something wrong first. Like, what am I forgiving them for? Is it really forgiveness if I don't know that they've done something wrong? Like, turning the other cheek, true, you're right, for 100%. But forgiveness necessitates being judgmental.
You have a little way to go on that. It's not. I don't want to sit here and try to like talk you into it, because it really is like a personal awakening issue to see the difference between that, because it's. I don't know, that's all I have to say about that. But by the way, the verse that you went to, by the way, I went to Jesus in the Gospels and the way he was training up his disciples, which is literally a matter of how to treat other people in human form in the church, right? I said, when the disciples said, hey, there's this guy who's doing miracles in your name, he's casting out demons, what do? He's not with us. He says, leave him alone. It's not like he's going to do all that in my name and then like say something against me right after that. So he's for us, right? And they were like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, everybody's for us then. As long as they're not against us, they're for us. And Jesus was like, you get it. So just spread the word and just, You're like the guy walking along the road throwing seeds, bro. And some seeds are going to land in good soil, and some seeds are going to land in the rocks. Some are going to get swooped up by birds, some in the thorns, but some are going to grow. And those that grow are going to bear a bunch of fruit for me. So you don't worry about it. You just throw the seeds. You don't worry about the outcome. That's how you do your ministry. And they were like, oh, based, let's go. And that's it. What you read is a verse out of Revelation, which is like this highly symbolic book about the end times. And what it starts with is to the angel of the church of Philadelphia. No, to the angel of the church of Laodicea, write these words to them. These are the words of Amen, the faithful and true witnesses, the originator of God's creation. I know your deeds. You are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other, because if you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to vomit you out of my mouth. Like, you went to this whole other level of trying to justify, like, oh, this is how Christianity is supposed to be. Bro, just
no, I was including
Jesus,
what you were
dog.
saying. I was including what you were saying, and I'm saying we need like all of the context, all of the things that they've said about these things to really come to a real conclusion on these things, because I believed that the entire Bible was one work altogether, and that all of it works together.
Retarded. You're retarded.
Well, I think it's a holy Bible. If it's a holy Bible, then all of it matters. All of it is important.
No, that's retarded. That's not right. That's just a totally erroneous presupposition that you have.
So Jewish people tomorrow start saying, we're actually the real Christians. They convince everybody they're the real Christians, and you follow their religion, and that's how you get to heaven. You're cool with that because they're saying they're for God. That's how you took that Bible verses. As long as they're saying they're for Jesus, then it's all good because they're not against them now. This is your explanation. To me means that they're leading them somewhere else.
You started talking in a way that was sort of like had a different cadence, and I lost track of what. Can you say that again? What did you say?
Okay, so I was saying that if tomorrow the Jews say we're the real Christians, and they lead everybody into Jewish religion, but they just call it Christianity now, and they say that Jesus is actually this other guy, and he does this other thing, and everybody starts buying into this religion, you're saying because they are for Jesus and they are doing things that say they're for Jesus, now they're actually for Jesus because they're not exactly against Jesus. Whereas I'm saying if they're not for the Jesus that we proclaim, the Jesus that we believe in, the Jesus that we say is the real one, and this is what he really did, and this is what he really believes in. If they're giving you a different perception of Jesus, you're saying, well, it's still all good. And I'm saying, I would say that it's not all good. That's a completely different religion with a different Jesus. And that's how I would think of the Black Hebrew Israelites, as somebody with a different Jesus.
Well, there's a difference between saying there's a different religion versus a person who doesn't see things the way I do. What Jesus is dealing with in that early time of the ministry was a person, an individual, who was casting out demons in his name. He wasn't dealing with a sectarian group with a different religion and a different doctrine and a different set of beliefs and this whole, like, it wasn't another church that formed up as a counter to his church. So what I'm saying is the analogy goes far enough with Ye. Ye is a man who's out there casting out demons in Jesus' name. And he's not against Jesus. He loves Jesus. He's like, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I want to go to heaven. I want everybody else to love Jesus. We Jew. I'm a Semite too. You know what I mean? And whatever that means to him, I don't know. But he's not like promoting some anti-Christian religion. You know, he's not, I'm a Black Hebrew Israelite and you guys need to stop being Catholics. We're the true church. He's not doing any of that kind of stuff. So he's not coming out against Christianity. He's not coming out against Jesus. So as far as I'm concerned, to me, close enough. And we can draw him in over time. There's room to keep open arms and open conversations. We can break bread with that and work with that all day long, as far as I'm concerned. The Mormons too, as far as I'm concerned. By the way, I think I might be neglecting. We need to catch up. I got the super chats muted, but I see them popping up from time to time. We're going to read them. And I'm going to stand by for just 1 second. I'm going to turn my heater off. Can you carry the stream for about 10 seconds while I go turn off my heater?
Yeah, sure. When you get back, I got to go to the restroom though.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we got a little guy in the chat getting a little cranky today. His name's B. Heller. He's not all there. So guys, if you see him, be nice to him. It's a little challenge. Never mind the opioid addict types. Yeah. He's not all there, obviously. I like this background from him. Look at this. What's up, Cozy Chat? I'm looking at you guys.
Thanks, bruv.
Great carry.
I know that was more than 10 seconds. That was more than 10 seconds. Thank you.
Deleted is got the blue check mark on Twitter. He's a big name.
Real G. He's a real G. He's a computer hacker too. Don't piss him off. Let's see. Oh yeah, I gotta read some super chats and then we'll carry on. By the way, don't forget, that's why we do this. It's all for the Ameribucks. We're $76 on the way to our goal, which is $200. That's a 4th hour goal. Technically, we got about 40 minutes left to hit it. I played some music in the beginning, so we'll give you another hour. We got one more hour to hit the goal, and if we hit the goal, we'll go long. You get the 4th hour and probably 5 if we hit that goal. Dude, this fly. It's right on my microphone. Hold on. I think I got him. Nailed it. I love when I can get one. Okay. Super Natty Bros asked, he said, oh, hey, BT, did you see Kyle? See Kyle. Get it, Sig Heil? It's a C. He got me.
Well done.
Nice. You got me, Super Natty Bros. All right, Sit and Spin said, ask him if he's Georgism pilled. Are you Georgism pilled?
No, definitely not.
You never heard of Georgism?
Yeah, and like we're talking about like the taxes stuff and
land
like
taxes,
zoning
and,
for lands. Yeah,
land rents versus income taxes.
Yeah, probably not.
Somebody called in and was trying to take me down the rabbit hole on that, and I understood it. I'm not bought in at this point.
I got some Georgists in my community, and we've had a lot of conversations about it, but I'm not Did I say a lot of Georgists? Did I just say a lot of Georgists in my community?
You said 90% of your community is Georgists.
Or no, I said we've had a lot of conversations. Okay, yeah. Well, I have some Georgists in my community. We've had a lot of conversations about it, and yeah, I'm just not convinced.
Yeah, it seems like they're identifying some problems, some interesting problems, and proposing an interesting solution. I'm not sure if it's fully fleshed out. Like there's a working model of how it would, like how would a transition work and how would it work in perpetuity and how would it handle certain. I came up on the fly with some kind of outlier conditions that it wasn't clear immediately how this would be rectified, like certain type of problems that might arise. And it ended up reminding me sort of like a flat earth thing. It's like you can identify some problems, be like, oh, did you know that all of the pictures of the earth are just composites of low level pictures and they're not actually real? And have you ever noticed that when you go in a plane, the sea still looks flat? Like it's like, all right, but then they can't produce like a model of how it actually sensibly works, and they can't answer actual questions like, well, then what is the sun and what is the moon, and like how do they stay up there? And they're like, well, I don't know, but they're lying. It's like, all right, well, it's kind of breaking down like pretty quick.
All right, give me just a second. I'm gonna run to the restroom.
Hit it back.
Don't get me banned, please.
See if anybody said any links for music or anything. We'll be good.
All right,
you're back.
We got any questions?
Seems like that was a number 1.
Oh, yes.
Not a number 2.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, we do. We have some good questions, actually. And some also comments. Are we going up from the Georgism pilled question? We passed that one. Hot Dogs for Sale said, if all ideas should be heard and discussed, then speech that is critical of Semites should be heard without retaliation, correct? Tom, what is the Havara Agreement?
Wait, is that all the same? Okay, so the first one, I don't think that there aren't. I think that there are still consequences for freedom. I was discussing earlier. I still think that there are consequences and should be consequences for freedom. I think that all ideas should be heard and discussed, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that I said that they should all be heard and discussed responsibly. So, there's going to be some differences there. What was the second question?
Can you elaborate on that first, though? I'll remember the second. I got it right here. What kind of consequences are you are acceptable to you for speech?
What do you mean none from the government, like unless I'm like talking about killing somebody or something like that, like harming somebody. But outside of that, like if somebody's in my house and calls my wife a bitch, like I'm gonna kick them out. I don't like care about freedom of speech at that point.
What if someone's going around town saying that your wife is a whore? And that she's been cheating on you, and he's gossiping and lying.
Yeah, I might punch him in the face or something like that. Like, yeah, there's still consequences for these things.
What if somebody's going around town telling people that you're a pedophile, and you find out that there's like a large mob that's forming that wants to like kill you because of this lie that's being told?
Yeah, again, like, yeah.
Are they within their right telling that lie?
I think that like I should be able to sue people for stuff like that, but I don't want the government to go like arrest them. No.
Based suing people. What if you're not allowed to sue people? What if there's no, like, what if it's just totally not practical? What if the lawsuit costs $1 million and you're not going to win? Then there's no recourse set up in the legal structure for you to like get justice for this lie that's being slanderously told about you that's actually causing you physical harm. Putting you in danger.
Probably Thanos snap and that person will just randomly disappear.
Yo, was that a dog whistle?
Definitely not.
Oh, okay. Okay. What the second part of that question was, what is the Havara Agreement?
I don't know.
Want to Google it?
The Havara Agreement.
It's
okay.
Haavara.
The Havara transfer agreement was an agreement between Nazi Germany and Zionist German Jews signed on 25th of August 1933. The agreement was finalized after 3 months of talks by the Zionist Federation of Germany, the Anglo-Palestine Bank under the directive of the Jewish Agency, and the economic authorities of Nazi Germany. It was a major factor in making possible the migration of approximately 60,000 German Jews to Palestine in 1933 through 1939.
And when did World War II start?
33? Or was it 28? I can never remember.
It was 1939.
Or yeah, 39. Yes, 39 through the 40 through 45, yeah.
So the Havara Agreement between the Nazis and the Zionists was created 6 years before the war.
Mm-hmm.
So this maniac who for all of a sudden, for no reason, started genociding all Jews 6 years before a shot was fired anywhere, he was creating a way for them to go to Israel and like a free just migration pact, like he's created an agreement with them, with their high-ranking elders, the Zionist Jews in Germany. He was just creating them an extra strategy, a place where he would support them going to have their own territory 6 years ahead of time, totally peaceful. Yeah. This maniac, this evil bad guy monster that we're all supposed to hate. Most people don't know about that, right? They don't start teaching about World War II and be like, in 1933, the Havara Agreement. This is where they began.
I think most people are well aware they were trying to get the Jews out of Germany before they Holocausted them. I think most people know this. Yeah. The oppressions that led up to the Holocaust, I think most people are aware of.
Do you enjoy saying Holocaust?
I don't like. That's just what we call it. What do you want me to call it?
That's a good question. What would I rather have you call it?
Is you and I have a huge disagreement on language, where like I talk about like how language is created, and you talk about how you want language to be.
Yeah.
So we have different ways of using it.
It's exactly right. I think it should be used to help us.
And
I
I think everybody believes that. It's just help is different from one person to another.
Yeah, and I think that the ways that we should limit ourselves is when we use it to manipulate each other. When we use words in a way that's designed to elicit an emotional surge within another person, or to create an emotional reaction, or to trigger a bias, or to create all sorts of cascading effects of sort of fallacious origin, I think we should limit ourselves from that type of use of language.
I don't think you do. I think a lot of the language that you use around like Jewish people and saying things like evil and, you say things like, what's the D word? I always forget it. Degenerate, like those sorts of things. Like you could just say like bad or I don't like it, but you use like more verbose language to entice like a specific type of feeling from those words. Like I think we all do that. It's necessary in rhetoric to be able to engage people.
I think there is an acceptable range for rhetorical usage, but I'm still being accurate when I say that. I didn't invent a word that has a special charge. Like Holocaust is an invention. Like Holocaust is literally a word that's used in the Bible in reference to a burnt offering on the altar. So it's like you're invoking a religious significance of a scapegoated animal being given up for the sins of someone else. So there's like a dramatic painting of a picture that's being done through the labeling of this event, calling it the Holocaust. And then you even took it a step further and turned it into a verb, holocausting the Jews. It's like now we're getting 2 degrees removed from reality. And even calling it a genocide isn't even true. It was just rounding up the Jews. He put them in, he concentrated their population. That's actually what he did.
Didn't kill them. They didn't die. They didn't go from one number to a much, much, much smaller number. They just...
No, actually, most of that is bullshit.
They were all just hanging out and partying.
And there was a whole bunch of scary pictures of like emaciated, skinny Jews left over in the camps at the end of the war. But the soldiers looked like that too, because the war effort was failing. Their supply lines were getting cut and they were starving. So many, many died. Yeah, mostly of things like typhus and outbreaks within the camps because they're in close quarters, and they had gas chambers for delousing all of the linens, all of the bed coverings.
So we should call them. They put them all into one concentrated camp, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's why it's called a concentration camp. It's where you get them all together into
a concentration camps.
Concentration camp isn't a place where you bring them together so you can focus your mind, and it's also not a place where you bring them together so you can kill them all at once. It's not a mass execution camp. It's a concentration camp. We put Japanese in concentration camps here. Does that make us Holocausters?
Well, Holocaust is, like you said, like it's a word for something else, but we apply it to this because we think the word is apt when we put it there. But the stigma that is wrapped around
because it was initiated upon us as a particular type of narrative after the war. That word was adopted by people who are word spinners. At the same level of like Madison Avenue advertising campaign, it was used to create like a traumatic hook in our mind. The Holocaust. It was chosen.
So all of the soldiers that like witnessed, all of these different things, they were all like, the Jews made them say that stuff.
What are you talking about?
Have you ever watched, there's an HBO series, damn it, I'm blanking on it was made by Tom Hanks.
Okay.
There's a series where but it was made by him, and it was a series of shows where they It's about the soldiers. It's about them like going and like fighting in a bunch of different countries and getting moved to all over the place and sitting in snow for a long period. Band of Brothers. Thank you, Sass.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, so good. But but in that, like, they saw like lots of like horrible stuff, and they like came upon concentration camps and like discovered all sorts of different things. And then you can watch the director's cut where there's all of these interviews with the actual people who were there talking about like the things that they saw. So my question is,
what
like,
did they say that they saw people getting gassed?
No, they saw piles of bodies. They saw piles of bodies all over the place.
Did they see 6 million bodies?
Well, no, we didn't. There's no way we could have known how many people died right off the rip if they're buried, if all these other things. So we have to wait. And if we go like 10 years and all of a sudden none of these people ever show up, then we have to assume they died.
What people? You have lists of people who are missing?
Yes, they had lists of names, lists of people. They didn't go back home. They didn't show back up to their families. They were reported missing.
Place where there's the list of the 6 million names. That's a rhetorical thing. That doesn't exist. You're assuming that exists, but it doesn't. There's no 6 million people that are gone.
No, I'm not assuming. This is how they come up with the estimates. Is they know how many people. Yes, it is. It is part of how they came up with the estimates. It is not the only way, but it is part of how they came up with the estimates. Yes.
No, that's not how they came up with the 6 million number at all. It's not because there was a certain number of names that have vanished from the planet. Nothing like that. And the piles of bodies that they found, they would find several hundred here and several hundred there at these, and that doesn't add up to 6 million, by the way. That's 6 million is a huge number of corpses to not have been able to find. And the point of the questioning the smokestacks and all the gas chambers and the crematories is the idea, like Nick's famous cookie joke, is that we've never found like the crematory operation that would be required to disappear that many bodies. So the question is, where are the bodies? Where are the mass graves? Where's this big pile of skeletons? Well, they must have burned them all up, the Jews tell us. It's like, but where's the crematory that could have done that? And there they are. And there's like 3 brick ovens. It's like, that would take like 40 years, 24 hours a day to do that.
I know the joke. Okay. So right here, it says, Lucy Dawid-Dowitz in her The War Against Jews, 1975, used pre-war death records to come up with a more precise figure of 5,900,000. And one of the more authoritative German scholars of subject, Wolfgang Benz, offered the range of 5.3 to 6.2. Each used his or own method to arrive. So one of them used birth records and was able to have like a list of citizens and people that just weren't there anymore.
And they definitely didn't fudge the numbers to be close to the guesstimated number, right?
I mean, if you have evidence for them fudging the numbers, I would like to see it, but so far nobody has that. We have evidence for the names. We have the names. We have the lists. We have the people.
No, we don't. You just keep saying that we have the names. There's no list of names.
These things are public. Yes, the woman who did the research, she published this information. It has been gone over. This is why we use this list, is because we have reviewed her, the way that she used her method, and we've decided that this was a good method to use and that this is accurate. But it's still like somewhat of a guesstimate, because some of those people might have run away. Some of those people might have disappeared. Some of those people might have found like a big booty chick and said, you know what, I'm going to pretend I got Holocausted or concentration camped and disappeared.
Bro, like, what are you talking about?
I'm saying it's not like an exact number. Some of these people might have actually just run away.
Some of what people? The people on the list that doesn't exist? You keep saying there's a list. A list of how many?
So some of them we have, like, again, we're not looking at one thing where it's just like names that disappeared. We're also looking at people being reported missing and not coming back. We also have.
Where's the list of those people? How many are
again? These things are in court records. There's the trial for, I forget the guy's name. I haven't done this in so long, so I'm having trouble. But there's the court records for the guy who damn it, like Fredericks something. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Somebody help me out here.
Well, tell you what, if you want, this is something that will take research. I mean, I don't want to stop you from doing it, but I also don't want to put you on the spot to try to prove it right here, because that would be kind of like a bad faith straw man. Like, oh, if you can't show me the source, like, I'm not trying to make you source me the 6 million names. What I'm saying is, this thing that you're sort of like insinuating exists, that don't exist though. So it's like, we can't talk about it like it does, because it don't. And what it actually is this sort of like extrapolation based on birth rates in a small little area. And then if you do like this weird algorithm with the number, you can come up with something like, oh, it's not exactly 6 million. It's 5,900,804 though. It's like basically 6 million. It's like 6 million is their magic number. And by the way, Anne Frank, dude, she went to a concentration camp where the report is that they separated children from parents and they killed everybody who was weak, and they killed the children. They were disappeared right away. And the only people that were kept alive are the ones that would be useful, strong slaves for a while to support the war effort. That's the story that they told. And somehow Anne Frank survived that. How would a child survive the concentration camps if they're killing all the children? Like, it's like on the face, it doesn't even add up at all. And the thing is, then when you get the actual pictures of the place when it was operational, not at the end of the war, after the Dresden bombing and the Hamburg bombing is in the total collapse of the Western Front, and the retreat of the army, and the supply lines are cut off, and everything's collapsing, and Hitler's locked down in Berlin, the camps stopped receiving food on the trains. It's not like they had their own farm at the camp. They had to send food on the train. They had to send supplies to the camps to keep them alive before they could get them to go fulfill that Hafara agreement and get them out to the new Israel. That was the plan. The plan was to get them out of the cities, get them out of the culture, because it's wartime now. It's an emergency. We're fighting against the communists. We're fighting against the Americans, and these Jews are not with us. So we're rounding them up and we're getting them out of here. We already made a plan in 1933. 6 years ago, we made this plan. And now we're going to get them all, and we're going to ship them out. And first we have to get them all together, and then we have to arrange transport. But first thing is to get them all together. But at the end of the war, they died in the camps, and they weren't able to get out. That's why you have piles of bodies. It's not because they were just mass executing people.
Have you seen his name was Frederick Zundel. Have you seen the Zundel trial papers?
It's not ringing a bell. You want to send me a link?
Yeah. So Zundel was the guy in '88 who got charged with knowingly spreading false information, where he wrote, was it really 6 million or something like that? And went through an entire court case where they presented all of the facts and information on this. And
the Jews smashed him.
I mean, again, the information's out there, but I'm sending you
let's go.
The Wikipedia on Zundel.
A German neo-Nazi, pamphleteer of Holocaust-denier literature, jailed several times in Canada for publishing literature likely to incite hatred against an identifiable group, on charges of being a threat to national security in the United States for overstaying his visa, and in Germany for charges of inciting racial hatred. He lived in Canada from 1958 to 2000. I guess, is he still alive? Died 2017. R.I.P. 77, Zundel founded a small press publishing house called Samizdat Publishers, which issued neo-Nazi pamphlets as his co-author, The Hitler We Loved and Why. Richard Verrall's Did 6 Million Really Die? The Truth at Last, which both significant documents in the Holocaust denial movement. Verrall's pamphlets should not be confused with the Barbara Kolaska's book, Did 6 Million Really Die? Report on the evidence of the Canadian false news trial of Ernst Zundel. Oh, there's another book written about this trial, Report on the Evidence in the Canadian False News Trial of. So this woman wrote a book about the fake news published about this guy that you're talking about. So the fake news media slandered and slaughtered and crucified this guy, and now I'm using rhetoric. They put him through a crucifixion, a show trial, to shut this man down, and found some way of putting him in jail based on charges of inciting violence, when really he's just trying to clear the record.
Well,
is that
so
what
let's say
understanding here?
So let's say earlier we were talking about like responsible ways of getting all information out there. So let's say he actually was wrong. Like this would be a responsible way of saying, hey, here's like what we believe is actually correct. Here's what we believe is true. Here's the information. Here's the evidence. Here's what we have. Here's what we know. And then you get to read this and decide for yourself. And I think that it's all very convincing and makes an insanely great case, but I haven't read it in like 5 years. So
or let's say that he was right, and so what they did was slander him in the media and then put him through a trial and convict him on inciting violence.
I mean, in the United States, we don't do this. So like what they did to him in Canada, we don't do this here. So I don't agree with that way of doing things. So you told me that
this guy looks like he's probably a knowledgeable guy, and he's like, here's the truth about the Holocaust, and they're like, nope, shut it down. We can't let him talk about that. You go to jail, because if people read this, they're going to get angry at Jews for lying.
I mean, I know that you can come up with some sort of theory for why everything's incorrect, but when I'm talking about like why I believe what I believe, I'm saying there are sources that I can go to. There are facts, there are statistics, there's numbers, there's methods, there's all sorts of things that I can look at to say this is what happened. And so that's all.
And by the way, this guy isn't even a good source. I mean, there's a whole section on UFOlogy. This guy was kind of like a wild man to begin with. So we got a guy that they're calling a neo-Nazi, but they call everybody that these days. Who knows if he really was. But there's a whole section on here where he gets all interested in UFOs and Antarctica. So this is just kind of some guy who's interested in alternative narratives, and he's like interested in like looking through like what's for the hidden reality behind the world. He's into UFOs and Antarctica and all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, that stuff's all over YouTube anyway. It's cool. Have you ever seen the Robert Zephyr channel? It's fascinating. It's fun. It's just fun. But like the idea that this guy got debunked, even if he had some wild, like he could have said that Bigfoot made up the 6 million number, but that doesn't mean that the revisionist history has been debunked. This is just
the Holocaust denialism really started to pick up from when he wrote his book, and like really started to become pervasive afterwards. So you are probably saying all of the things from this crazy UFO guy.
So you think he started the revisionism of the Holocaust?
I'm saying that that's when it started to become popularized.
Is that a fact? 1977?
Like before that, it just wasn't a thing, but also like the 6 million number had changed as well. So it's kind of hard to come up with theories when you don't have an exact science down just yet.
Wait a minute. Hot Dogs for Sale is telling me, I mean, I haven't read this whole thing, but he's telling me in all caps in my chat, the court found in Zundel's favor.
On other things, yes.
Like on what?
Not that he was correct. No, they did not.
Detention, deportation, imprisonment. 2003, Zundel was arrested in the United States by the United States government for violating immigration rules. What did the court find then?
So he was being tried for spreading misinformation, but it was over something else. But because it was through a court system, that book had to be justified, and so they had to like debunk the stuff that he was saying throughout the court. And so the stuff that they were using to debunk it, had to be verified, had to be shown that it was true, and was considered to be untrue through the court system, but overall, yes, he was found to be innocent.
You're saying that since the court,
he was not being tried on Holocaust denialism. He was being tried on
the Canadian court was able to debunk the Holocaust revision?
I mean, I don't have much faith in Canadians for very much, but
what about lawyers?
Lawyers, yeah. These are like the best and the brightest among us.
Bruh. Oh, no. No, dude. Lawyer, their job is to win. The prosecutor's job is to get a conviction. The defender's job is to prevent a conviction. Their job is just to
system.
win. Their job is not to discover the truth.
No, duh. That's a good system.
Yeah, but you're appealing to this trial as though the truth was revealed within it.
Wait. No, that was a complete fallacy. You said lawyer's job is not to find the truth. Sure, right. We're not talking about what the lawyer did. We're talking about what the courts did. We're talking about the process for the courts. No,
so what does the process of the court have anything to do with discovery of the truth with regard to Holocaust revisionism?
When they found him innocent, they were finding him innocent on something else. But the information that went through the courts that was verified that they used for this case, that is what I'm talking about.
Verified by who?
Through the courts. Like if they
what does verified through the courts freaking mean?
Again, it's been a long time, so I'm sorry. I'd be happy actually to go, like, if you want to sometime go over all of this, because it's been a long time since I've been through it. But
it's the first time I'm hearing about it, so yeah, we could.
Yeah, I didn't even know that I didn't remember this much of it, so I would be happy to read it again and go back over it sometime at a later date. But yeah, they're actually like,
I just don't understand your point. The point is that since it was brought up in the court had some sort of, they put it like through some machine that filters out the bullshit, and they only got like the pure truth, and they're like, oh, this is acceptable to the court. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, say I go into a court and I start like spreading like obviously false information, I will get charged with contempt and lying in court, and I'll go to jail for it. So like there are verification processes.
No,
I've been arrested many times and gone to court many times. I've been to prison many times. Like you can't like just make stuff up in court. Yeah, perjury. Yeah.
But a lawyer, like a prosecutor, can come and say all sorts of bullshit about you in certain ways, and the court won't go like, you can't say that, it's untrue.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So no, you can bring untrue things into the court all the time.
Well, not evidence. We're not talking about what somebody said. We're talking about like evidence, stuff that's being shown.
Yeah. So
stuff
what
that's
type
being
of trial
presented.
was this a criminal case, and he was presenting evidence of a crime that was committed?
Believe the state was charging him with spreading false information.
And so how does the state verify what's true and false?
Again, there's a system that they go over, so I don't want to like.
Yeah, so that's the thing that would have to be examined. Is like, I'm not aware of any state anywhere having some sort of like machine that verifies true or false on stuff, or any type of process by which they could say this information about the past is true and this information about the past is false. All they do is go, this is acceptable to the court and this is not acceptable. This is admitted into evidence and this is excluded for evidence. And the judge and the attorneys go into the back room and they argue about what's going to be included and admitted. And it's the judge, this person, this one human, who just goes like, I'll allow this and I won't allow that, and we're going to carry forward. And then if there's a problem with that, the attorneys can, press for a mistrial, or, they can appeal or whatever to a higher court to look it over, the decision that the judge made. But it just comes down to people deciding yes, no. There's not some, just because it went through the court, that doesn't mean that it was verified as true.
Well, again, it's based on the process that's being used. I'm not saying somebody's judgment decided that it was true. I'm saying somebody's judgment decided that a process was good enough. So I know what process the courts
make too, though. I mean, that's easy. The process of the court is to bring in an expert, right?
To use experts and
yeah. So they brought in some Holocaust expert named Rosenstein, and he came in and he said, according to all of our books and all of our curriculum and all of our records and all of our narrative, this isn't in alignment with that. I'm the expert. And they appealed to a credentialed expert. That's what courts do. But that doesn't verify anything either.
credentialed experts don't just get up there and say whatever. They bring information to back up what it is.
Yeah, but not all information is equally relevant and accurate. They're going to bring information that backs up their narrative and their belief.
Of course, but again, there are processes for these sorts of things. That's what I keep saying over and over. It's the process that I would trust, but I don't have the process here in front of me.
See, this is
I don't trust the people.
This is the problem.
I don't trust the experts. I trust the processes.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust processes because processes are just literally like, dude, you're literally speaking computer language at this point. You are a bot. I trust the process. A process is literally like a system of code that runs through mind and it runs through humanity. You're like, yes, I trust process. I do as the process tells me. Process would never lie. Me bop boop bop. And you, and this is the main difference between you. Between Destiny and Nick and between you and me, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, it's like, I trust the credentialed experts. I trust that they must have some system by which they verify things. There's no way that there's a corrupt cabal of liars operating in the government. Now, I'm making an obtuse, like sort of rhetorical exaggeration, but the point is, at the end of the day, it does come down to an assumption. Your assumption is that the process is reliable. The assumption is that the process is going to spit out a valuable, valid, true enough, better than other things type of result. And same as Destiny. When Destiny argues with Nick, the assumption is that there's no way that within the intelligence agencies of the FBI, they're getting away with conspiring together. There's no way that they're able to pull off a mass hoax at that scale without having 1,000 people involved. It couldn't be just a few people keeping a secret, a few people that have a special pact with each other. There's no way that could happen. It's impossible. And there's like this assumption that there's no way that the fucking wool is being pulled over your eyes in a massive way. And we're over here going like, no, dude, the wool's being pulled over your eyes. You're literally being blinded. They are fucking hoodwinking you. They're tricking you. This happens all the time. And that's actually their main expertise is not verifying and getting to the truth. Their main expertise is tricking the fuck out of you. That's what they're really good at. And that's
well, like, I mean,
so
I'm
like,
not triggered, but
no, not triggering, tricking.
Oh, tricking. I'm saying, yeah. I'm not saying that I trust that there is a process that is worthy. I'm saying I read the process. I went through it. I believe that is a good process to use, and therefore I trust the process. Not that it's just, I trust that they have a process that they use, but that like in the books, they actually explain all of these things and then they have the numbers, they have the stats and how they gathered these and all of this information. And I believe that those are good processes to come to conclusions. You as well have to believe that there is a process to gather this information and that there is a different type of information that you would get from a different type of process, and that you believe that it's not 6 million because there is a process to go through. So me saying that I trust the process does not make me like a bot, because everybody would have to trust some sort of process to get this information.
Right. So the difference would be there's a different process to go through if you want to find out the full story versus if you want to find out the story that works best for you. There's two different processes. And if you just trust processes and you think that they're all equal, you might end up trusting a process that's designed to give a particular story, because that story has extreme value to extremely powerful people. And that story is the approved narrative. And outside of that, you shall not go, as this fella found out. This weird fellow who's into UFOs and was probably a little too outspoken, and he's kind of a robust, rotund, boisterous, he's like a vociferous troublemaker. And so he ended up in a court of law trying to defend this thing that a lot of people know about, not just him, but he's the one out there making trouble about it. So he ended up in court. But dude, this guy did not come up with it on his own. He's the one who ended up stumbling his way into a courtroom about it because he wouldn't shut up. He was out there, UFO chasing and Alex Jonesing it up in the streets. But there's a lot of people who are like, wait a minute, this shit don't add up, dog. And also, if you look at the old records, nobody came home writing about the war. In the very earliest writings of the war, nobody mentioned gas chambers. Nobody mentioned the 6 million number. That's something that came up after the Red Scare. It came up quite a bit later. And so the whole first, like the McCarthyism and all that happened. But the Holocaust is a particular type of like pro-Jewish, pro-America is the savior of the world. Like the Allies were just like these angelic good guys who stormed Normandy and they're the greatest generation and all of this great stuff about we just love our troops and we worship them because Hitler was the biggest demon in the world. And by the way, there was literally like a satanic offering to the devil called the Holocaust that was going on. And these angelic Jews for no reason were being gassed to death and they were being turned into lampshades and they were being like, they were put into they thought they were going into the showers to receive a shower. And it turns out it was gas coming out of the nozzles. Nightmare. Like this is all like made up to scare the shit out of everybody and to make Hitler into a bigger monster than he was.
Where was that from again? Was that from a movie? That they thought they were going in the showers?
Yeah, that movie is making fun of real tales that lying Holocaust survivors told. They really did just actually have showers. They went in and there was big showers. And they did have to shower together because the plumbing wasn't designed for everybody to have an individual stall. It wasn't a fucking getaway camp at Club Med. This was
a ghetto camp, actually.
Getaway. This was a wartime emergency situation. We're rounding these people up and we're getting them the hell out of our country. That's the program that was going on. The retelling is that they were gathering them all up to systematically, maniacally murder them all. That's not what happened. That's not the real thing. The real thing is they were getting them the hell out of there. They were concentrating them
the
out
overall
of the cities
point
into one place and then ship them out. That was the plan. That's what I actually believe went on. But I mean, it's still a nightmare what happened at the end. And if you don't mind, feel free to finish. We've been here 3 hours, by the way. Thanks for being generous with your time. But I want to honor my other guys who we have now crossed over the halfway point of the goal. And so I need to read the rest of these super chats. Let's
just real quick. I want to just throw this out there. We were talking, and thankfully somebody reminded me in the chat. We were talking about whether or not the documents exist, and so that was just my entire point. Is just that they do exist. There are places where we get the information from. It didn't just like come up out of nowhere. But yeah,
the documents exist. Documents of what?
Oh, like how we got the 6 million number.
Yeah, I know that. The question is how reliable is whatever somebody wrote on those documents? And then that requires...
Well, you were saying that there aren't documents with lists of names and stuff like that they don't exist. And so I was saying, no. They exist. They're just...
No. Oh, so you're saying, no, the thing I said doesn't exist is a document with 6 million names on it. That don't exist. And you're not going to show me that because that's not real. There is no counting of 6 million individuals
there's one
who
document
died.
with 6 million.
There's not a compilation
of
30 documents. There's no tallying. There's no actual record of 6 million individuals. That is a number that it has been like algorithmically guessed upon based on the word of some people who had an agenda. That's not actually a list of real humans who are now missing from the planet. That's not a real number. There's no list of names of those people. That's a make-believe thing.
That would depend on the process that's being used.
Right, exactly. And I could invent a process that turns it into 60 million.
You can, but you're just saying that the system was made up when you're already admitting that you don't know what the system was.
You need to verify the reliability of the system. And you haven't.
And I'm saying that I have gone through the process of looking all of these things up, from reading books about it, from verifying that I believe this is a good system. You're saying, I don't know what the system is, but I know it's made up.
Well, tell you what, next time we come, you made the offer. Maybe we'll go over the guy's thing and you and I'd be happy to do with it, especially at this time. I mean, Ye's doing his thing. Nick is with him. I mean, this is going to be, we got 2 years before the election happens. There's going to be a lot of Jew talk. So there's plenty of time. We don't have to hurry it, but maybe next time, maybe it'll take us a couple weeks to get ready. I don't know. But when you want to come back, we could schedule it. Let's do a deep dive. And if you want to do it, we'll do it together. I still got more super chats coming in. Let's start getting to these. We'll get through it, but we'll come back. Put a pin in that. I think that'll be good. We will both become experts on the Holocaust and the number by the end of this. I think that's a good goal. Let me make sure I'm not skipping any of these. The last one we read was, okay, hold on. Wait, We're quite a bit back. Oh man, they're piling up. We got to go faster. Thank you guys for sending these in. These are good. Okay, George is impaled. All ideas heard in success. Anonymous for 10 says, honestly amazed. No one ever said anything good about Hitler prior to Ye. If you look at what he was able to accomplish in his comically short time in power, Hitler, obviously we're talking about just like a few years, it's as close to a civic miracle as has ever occurred. He totally flipped Germany from bottom to top. Do you agree?
He made a lot of changes for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of like a miracle. So, but we're not allowed to say that you think he was cool. Oh yeah, because of the Holocaust. Yeah.
That is not the case. There are people all over the place. Even Jordan Peterson, like Ben Shapiro, tons of Joe Rogan. These people have all complimented Hitler on tons of things in the past.
So well, then what's the big deal of Ye being like, well, I like Hitler. I think he was cool. In fact, there's a lot of things I love about Hitler. Why do you have to keep making me say that I hate Hitler?
It's the broad generalization that he's applying to Hitler that obviously, again, what most people think of, instead of being specific and saying, oh, he did a good job in this area, or he did a good job in this area. You're just saying, oh, Hitler did a good job. Like most people would hear, oh, he did a good job at killing Jews. Like, because that's what most people think of when they think of Hitler.
Hitler was awesome.
Yeah,
except for the Holocaust.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, except for... So it's because of the Holocaust. You can't say that you love him and think he was awesome. You have to say, I love him and think he's awesome, but the Holocaust, so I hate him. It's kind of
I mean, so it seemed like I for a long time I've identified as a neo-conservative, right? And if I say, people are like, oh, like George Bush, and I'm like, yeah, I like George Bush. They're like, oh, you love that he went and killed all those Iraqis and Iranians and blah blah. Like they're like, they automatically throw all of this because that's what they think of. That's the first thing that they think of when I say I like George Bush, and so I have to like correct that and be like, okay, I liked like his management style. I liked a lot of his beliefs. I liked stuff like that. So yeah.
Exactly. So why is everybody freaking out about Ye? Same thing. Hitler's just like George Bush.
Wait, but that's what I'm saying, is that I have to like adjust the way that I talk about George Bush for this reason.
Oh, okay. So you don't say that you like George Bush anymore. You adjust it for the people who have a low level of intellect to where they overreact and put words in your mouth that you're not saying. You adjust yourself for their sake.
I mean, you have put a lot of words in my mouth in this conversation. So yes, I have to do this fairly consistently.
True. Okay, Hot Dogs for Sale says, pop quiz, Tom. What book advocated for the genocide of an entire people? Was it Mein Kampf by Hitler? Or was it Germany Must Perish by Theodor Kaufmann? Trick question. Which book was it?
I thought he was asking which book in the Bible. I was going to say Deuteronomy, but...
based Christian genocide.
I have no idea. I don't know the second one.
It was the Jew Theodor Kaufmann who wrote a book called Germany Must Perish that called for the genocide of entire people. It was not Hitler in Mein Kampf.
I have read Mein Kampf. I am well aware that it does not advocate for genocide, though it does demonize a group of people that most people would believe leads to the Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
A Holocaust.
A Holocaust. With a full blown list of 6 million real people that actually died. Okay.
However many it was.
Yeah, maybe 150, maybe 300,000. I don't know. Also,
a lot of cookies got baked.
A lot of people starved and died in the cold at the end of the war when the supply chain stopped coming. Also,
they wish they had cookies.
What was the Havara agreement between? Oh, we already covered that. Between the German government and the Nazis. Thank you, Hot Dogs for Sale. We got through the Havara agreement. Great contribution. You guys are carrying the show. Sit and Spin said, ask what his favorite band is. I'm curious. 07. What's your favorite band? Got one?
I like Alt J a lot. Alt J is pretty dope.
Alt J.
Yeah.
Never heard of her.
You probably heard a lot of their songs, but most people don't know like who they are. They're not like a very mainstream band, but I found them in like 2009, and I've loved almost everything they've put out since then.
Let's see. Let's see.
Like Fitz Pleasure is one that. Yep. Yeah.
Let's go. All right, we're vibing. Okay, can you still hear me? I'll read the next super chat and leave this going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Epton says my early power chat skipped. Okay, I'll look back. I hope I didn't skip.
Oh, I can't hear you actually.
Okay, I'll turn this off. We'll play some. Maybe we'll play this to close the show out. What was the name of the song that you like it by them?
One of my favorites by them is Fitz Pleasure.
Fitz Pleasure. Anonymous asked, "What does Dilbert think?" I think he's referring to you.
I'm Dilbert.
Base, nice. Let's go. What does Dilbert think about the fact a Jewish leader just abolished the majority Christian church in a Christian country?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing.
I don't know what that's referring to.
There was I know that there I don't even want to say it because I'm not sure if I'm right.
A Jewish leader just abolished the majority Christian church in a Christian country. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
oh, okay. That was the Germany Must Perish one. Yeah, I know I'm way behind on these super chats, guys. I'm slow to get to read them. They're coming. We're coming through now. You didn't leave, did you? Hey, guys who sent in the power chat questions, you didn't leave, did you? So yeah, we're reading it. Hey, if you left, it's on you, bro. But I know you're all stayers. You're all hanging in till the end. We're getting into it. So now we're reading the questions.
Sale likes to send in lots of gotcha questions, regardless of what show I'm on. He sends lots of gotcha questions.
That's pretty cool. Okay, we got to the early power chat. Hot dogs for sale again. Here we go. Here's the dilemma, Tom. If Jews hate their white liberators, doesn't that prove that Hitler was right about them? Oh, shit. That's crazy. Alternatively, if Jews feel free to attack their liberators, speaking of us, by the way, the U.S., the Allies, we liberated them. If they feel free to attack their liberators and feel no guilt doing so, doesn't that prove the Holocaust never happened?
I mean, one,
I don't know.
The Jewish people alive today were not in the Holocaust, and two, the white people alive today didn't liberate them from anything. But I don't think that Jewish people hate white people either. I think that they rather enjoy us. They choose to live among us.
They don't hate white people?
Why would I think they hate white people?
Okay. Next question.
They've helped us so much.
How did they do that?
I mean, capitalism is something that's made our countries, superpowers throughout the world. We're doing big things.
Really? It wasn't economic, like, hitmanism, using the power of our Navy to, like, force other people into economic bondage to us? Is that what you mean by capitalism doing great things among the nations?
There are a lot of things that go into it, but most of it starts with economics and having the money and the ability to do those things.
So you're saying that we flourish and we rule the world because we have the best economic system?
Mm-hmm. As the other countries who are doing well.
You are a robot. What do you call a fat psychic?
If you want to find a country that's not using capitalism to prosper, and that they're doing really great, you can find me one, but I haven't discovered them yet.
Who's another example of capitalism doing great in their country?
China. They're
doing really great with capitalism.
Yeah.
The Chinese Communist Party is doing really great with capitalism.
So they're not really all that communist right now, and they spend an insane amount of money with the United States. They use a lot of their labor for our benefit, and they are bought into America more than any other country in the world, and they use our economic system to flourish over there.
So you think China is a good example of capitalism doing well as America. So America and China are good examples of economic policy.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that China's like entire economic system is good. I'm saying they are prospering because of capitalism.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. That's amazing.
Very because cool. They're bought into the United States.
Bought into us, as in we have a massive trade deficit with them.
Bought into us, yes. They need us to continue to prosper.
Right.
So like we go under, they lose all that money that we owe them, all of the businesses that they own over here, all of the real estate that they own over here, they are bought into us very heavily.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like a parasitical relationship. Like if the host dies, the parasite dies too.
Yep.
Perfect. That's great.
We are the host. They are the parasite.
And that's a great example of economic policy brought to you by Jews who invented capitalism, right?
I mean, whatever the biggest threat to our country would be China, right? And they what are they going to do? They're going to take us out to take themselves out too? Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just weaken us until they can just basically control us.
Well, they don't want to weaken us. They want us to prosper. We prosper, they prosper.
Is that right? Are you sure that's how it goes? It's like they just need us to consume their stuff so that they can basically be our slaves, right? They love that relationship.
Well, we're not just consuming their stuff. They're consuming our market at a high rate. And
what do you mean
need our market to be doing
market?
Well. They invest a lot of money into our market. Chinese businesses, Chinese banks.
Right.
They put a lot of money into the American market, and they would lose money.
Why would the Chinese Communist Party want to do that?
Why would they want to buy into the United States? Because we're very successful and they want to be successful too.
Oh, yeah. It's almost so
simple answers for simple questions.
I mean, simple answers from a simple perspective. It's not the right answer, but it is a simple answer. That's not why they're doing that, bro. It's not just because they want to be successful too. It's literally because they are playing the long game to overcome us, and we are fucked, and we're retarded, and we've sold out, and we're destined for doom. And you're riding high, literally with like such a short perspective on the future. It's just astounding. It's astounding. You are just like, beep, bop, boop. I am happy today. And actually, I'm not even really happy, but the fact that I'm not too sad today is pretty good. So everything is fine for me. Beep, bop, bop. Beep,
let's go.
Hot dogs for sale. Can you show Tom? Wait, Curious George sent one. Said, what do you call a fat psychic? A fortune teller.
Wait, say that again?
What do you call a fat
fortune teller?
A fortune teller.
Well done.
I really like that one, actually. That's a Norm Macdonald tier joke.
I got one. Almost. I made this one up. You ready?
Let's go.
What do you call a group of gay nurses?
What is it?
The Homo Nurse Association.
Yo! The Homo Nurse Association. That rules. Yep. You came up with that one? That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Nice. Hot dogs for sale. Can you show this one to Tom? This 1-minute excerpt from Romance of a People, a celebration of Jewish history performed in Chicago's Soldier Field in 1933. I know this one, but yeah, I'll show it. It's gonna take a second for me to like do a little.
You just want to pull it up on your stream. I'll pull your stream up, and you can just do it that way.
You'll.
I got it pulled up right now.
It, though. Oh, you got it?
Yeah. I'll unmute it. I got it.
Well, tell you what. Yeah. Can you stream it into the Discord?
You want me to stream it into the Discord?
It into our call, just like as a. You know what I mean? Just share your screen, and then I'll share.
Are you linking it to me, or?
I thought you said you pulled it up.
I have your stream pulled up, and I'm saying if you just pull it up on your stream and play it, I will just unmute your stream and listen to it that way.
Okay, I linked it. You pull it up in YouTube and then stream it into Discord for me, and then we'll be able to watch it together. I really like the Homo Nurse Association thing. That was awesome.
A new day dawns, the 20th century, with hopes of freedom, happiness, and peace.
This man's patient.
Oh, sorry.
A new day dawns, the 20th century, with hopes of freedom, happiness, and peace.
Yeah, I can't really.
The aspect sort of sucks. But are you watching what's happening? They're doing like a big old parade, some pageantry, and then keep watching it. Then they do this big ritual where they run around and do this dancing ceremony to a golden calf with fire coming out of its mouth. And then they symbolize putting a baby into the furnace. It's like straight up Moloch and shit.
Yeah, they're wearing like KKK uniforms too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what is this?
This is called Romance of a People. It's actually a bad. All right, we can shut that off now. I'm over it. It's just like garbage audio, but it's called Romance of a People, and it's actually from this thing that I done seen one time, where it's like a bunch of Jewish rabbis they organized a festival at in Chicago at the World Fair. You know about the World Fair in Chicago back in the early days? That's an amazing research, amazing rabbit hole. I'll send you some videos about the World's Fair.
Okay.
In early America, and actually just all over the place, they used to set up these things called the World's Fair, where they would build this gigantic exhibit, many, many, many acres, and all these venues, gigantic venues. They could filled with thousands of people. This unimaginable building, like a conquest that they did. And they would build these like little cities with massive buildings, but they were all built out of like plaster and wood, but they would look like stone columns and everything. It was Romanesque, and they would have these exhibits designed to show people cultures from around the world, art from around the world, new technologies, a million other things, and it would draw people from all over the country to come and have access to new technology and different cultures, different food, different recipes, different all this stuff, and they would call it the World Fair. And they built one in Chicago. It's kind of how Chicago really became a hub and a mecca itself, right there along the Great Lakes. They were going to do it in New York, but there was a bidding war, and they got it into Chicago. But anyway, millions of people would come, like on horseback and by train from all over the place to go attend the World Fair. And but that was one of the events that they had there. The Jews put together this thing, and what they chose to do was do a big old ceremony of sacrificing a baby to Moloch. It's like, what the fuck? It's so crazy.
What is Moloch?
Moloch is the Babylonian god of like child sacrifice. Basically like virgin sacrifice, human sacrifice. It's like, if you read in the Old Testament, the Canaanites worshipped Baal, and the Assyrians worshipped Moloch. And so this was when the Israelites were constantly getting tempted by false gods, worshiping false idols, worshiping the gods of their neighbors, of the foreigners, of other lands. This was Moloch worship, essentially, and Baal. These are essentially like pagan.
Moloch is schizo posting for Christians. Okay.
Yeah, essentially correct. But it's like out of the Bible, you know? And So you see in the Bible that God is constantly chastising Israel, stop worshiping false gods. And then he would bring some judgment on them, you know? And then, but that's what they were doing. They were getting into child sacrifice and crazy pagan stuff. And then there it is. So yeah, it's schizo-posting for Christians, unless you realize that Jews literally do still partake in that stuff. And it's odd, and we don't like it, and it feels icky. Okay, so moving along. Thanks for that hot dogs for sale. Look into the official rabbi of Portugal through World War II to mid-'80s that always proclaimed Nazis and Hitler did nothing wrong. The official rabbi of Portugal? No way. He said Hitler did nothing wrong? That sounds very anti-Semitic of that rabbi. Also, Epton said, please play 2-minute video, TOS safe, despite the title. Okay, I'm going to give you this one too. You decide if you want to play it. Can we do the same format?
Yeah.
I'm going to drop you a link. It's an Odyssey link. All right, we're getting there. We only have one more page of these super chats.
Look, see, not that I don't trust them, but
he might be getting tricked.
We've had a couple
I don't think
people...
this guy would screw me over. He's one of my mods. He's a trusted.
Okay.
So if he was lying to me, this would be a bad look.
All right, I will believe you. We'll pull it up. Share screen.
All right, let's go. We got it.
השתוללו בטנטורה היה משהו נורא. טנטורה היה כפר עשיר.
What's he saying?
בתים יפים.
I don't speak.
גרים.
It's got
I don't speak Hebrew.
captions at the bottom.
Okay, maybe I'll read it. If you start.
I wasn't reading, so I got to start over.
If the events in Tantura were crazy and horrifying, the events in Tantura, where's that? Okay,
Here, I'll put it on mute.
It's playing the other thing again.
A new day dawns. The 20th century.
The worst audio ever. I hate that video at this point. It's interesting, but it sucks.
Okay. All right.
It also kind of schemes like a scam because it's like, oh, it's got all this sound in it, and then there's a cut, and they're dancing in a circle and screaming, and
a couple of
it looks like
cuts,
something out of a movie.
I think it is from a movie. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. All right.
Tantura was a rich village and had beautiful houses. Its residents lived like Europeans, you know. And the women in the villages used to wear nice clothes for real. It was a village. One of the soldiers raped a 16-year-old girl. Whoa. What? Do you understand? The events were horrendous. There was a guy with us, a soldier. He was brutal. It took them to the Palestinians. He put them in the cages and killed them. They gathered them like in something like a cage and put iron wires around them. They gathered all of the men, sat them on the ground, and then one of the soldiers got a submachine gun and shot them. He changed the cartridge. What do you think? But we're not like that. The person was different and unusual. They imposed a cover-up. They were soldiers, took flamethrowers, and ran after the villages. It was horrible. And no one is allowed to talk about that because it would be a big scandal. This is super blurry.
Yeah, I won't talk about it. First 3 or 4 months, he said I was a murderer. I took no prisoners. In a battle, if someone tries to raid their hands, I didn't arrest them. That traumatized me. I can't get over it until this day. If school kids stood up and raised their hands and I saw them that day, I would have killed all of them. How many people have you killed this way? I didn't count. I wouldn't be able to know. I had 250 bullets in my gun. Dang. And I shot from it and killed everyone. I can't count.
We've talked a bunch about stuff like this where like
the title is K-word soldier laughing about raping 16-year-old. Yeah, okay, so this is like a Jewish IDF soldier or something like that.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, there's a bunch of studies on like Nazi soldiers and like the stuff that they went through and the stuff that they had to do, and kind of like their demeanor towards everything afterwards. And it's like it's really interesting to see like what humans can get pushed to do in certain scenarios.
You know, that wasn't about Nazis though, right? You know, that was
yeah, of course. I'm saying that like we know that like these are things that we do. We're violent people.
Such a funny reframe, bro. When you see it, it's like when you hear that Jews did that, you go like, yeah, I know the Nazis did crazy stuff.
No, like I'm saying people.
Response.
Hold on. I'm not saying Nazis do crazy stuff. I'm saying people do crazy stuff.
Yeah, but you mentioned Nazis though.
I mentioned studies on Nazis to say that like we know that we as humans get pushed to these like these levels, and I don't wait. Okay, so maybe I'm not understanding. Is the implication like because they're Jewish, like they do this, there's something inherent about their blood that makes them go kill and rape people all the time, and it just so happened to happen here and like not really as often everywhere else, but it's just like this thing in their blood that makes them do it? Or is it like these people did some freaking crazy bad stuff and people do crazy bad stuff sometimes?
No, it's the thing that you actually just exhibited is that Nazi is synonymous for psychopath in the minds of the masses, which is why you acknowledge that we talk about things in certain ways to like make room for that. Like you made the George Bush example even. Well, it's a million times bigger than it's 911 times bigger than that with Hitler than George Bush. And so
6 million times bigger.
Yeah, it's 6 million times bigger with Hitler. And so you say we have to make room because there's that ingrained programming with Hitler, with Nazi bad, Hitler monster, blah, 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 blah. And Jews, it's the opposite. Jews are angels. Jews can never do anything wrong. Jews are like the innocent victim of the monster.
Did I deny they did any of that stuff? Am I sitting here like, what? No, they didn't do this. They didn't do any of this. No, I like, and even when you're talking about like empathizing with Nazis, the thing that I just explained is I'm saying like, yeah, like we know humans are capable of this stuff. We know that we as humans are able to be programmed in these ways. Like I'm not singling out Nazis. I'm saying we as humans do these things.
But you literally said Nazis. You didn't say humans.
I said studies on Nazis. I don't know any other studies on anybody else.
Exactly.
Yes,
you only know studies on Nazis for a reason.
Yeah, because they did like some of the worst stuff.
No, there's other stuff that's gone on a lot of times.
There's other stuff, yes, just not 6 million stuff.
Dude, what do you know about? Did you read the Gulag Archipelago? Do you know about Solzhenitsyn in Russia? Do you know about the communists and what happened in the Bolsheviks? Do you know about Rwanda? Yes. I mean, like it happens all over the planet, but we know about the Nazis. The Nazis are like the cornerstone, the placeholder, like they are the water stamped approved evil demon, and the Jews get the opposite treatment. And notice when I was talking about Jewish predatory lending, it was the same thing. When I showed you Jews who raped and murdered and killed indiscriminately, you said, yeah, I saw a lot of things about Nazis doing wild stuff. And when I told you about Jews doing predatory lending, you said, yeah, it's crazy that the Catholics let them do that. It's like you did the exact same thing in both scenarios.
No, bro, you are twisting this so hardcore. I am saying that those guys are the same as Nazis and that we are the same as those guys. That was my point. I am saying that we are all these people who are capable of these horrible things. And you're just focusing on the fact that I said the word Nazi because you get super defensive about Nazis, but I'm not focusing on Nazis. My overall point was about all humankind. Like, and we went over this earlier about the differences between like the communists doing these things and the differences between the Nazis doing these things, and the rationale between like, you know, focusing on a specific group based on ethnicity versus focusing on people based on ideology, because horrific wars and stuff like that happen all the time based on ideology, but they don't happen all the time just based on ethnicity, and that makes that like a little bit more specific and different from the rest of them.
I'm not trying to put more onto it than it's worth. I'm literally just pointing out it's just a little thing. It's like a linguistic thing.
I agree with you.
It's like there's a little trigger, or it seems like
I agreed with that part though.
Yeah, okay. Well, I notice these things. I notice, you know, when the mouse hits the trigger and gets the pellet, and then he just becomes like a little trigger pressing mouse. In the same way, people, when they hear violence, they say Nazi, and when they say Jew, they say not their fault. It's just like the mouse presses the trigger and he gets the pellet. When you hear Jew, not their fault. When you hear Nazi, evil monster. It's like
that's people choose choose to be a Jew, but I think people could choose to be a Nazi. So there's like, again, there's like differences there that would rationally lead to different ways of looking at these things.
But I'm pointing out the programming of the robot people.
Yes, I know, but you and I are going to disagree on whether or not the stigma that comes with these things are justified.
Yeah, those are two conversations.
Because every time you bring these things back up, we're going to get right back into whether or not the stigma is justified again.
Yeah, but I'm really trying to talk to you about whether or not it's good that we're all programmed like this.
But if I think it's justified that the stigma exists, then I'm going to think that the programming is justified as well. Right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So if they convince you that this is the right way to look at the world, then you'll go, yes, I want everyone to be programmed with this thing.
Yes. If I was convinced of these things through rational arguments and data and information, then yes, I would come to those conclusions.
But what if you were convinced of these things through being introduced as a child to a traumatizing story and a narrative, and then later on you sought to justify the thing that you already adopted as true as a child when you were taught in schools by books that were published in New York with people whose last names are like Rothberg and stuff?
I agree with you. The motto of my show is challenge your thoughts. And anybody who's watched me from the beginning, from getting on this show, knows I have changed my beliefs an insane amount because I have been challenged on them, and I have had to rationalize the things that I believe in, and I've had to find data and facts and, really justify everything that I believe in from top to bottom, and I change what I believe when I'm proven wrong. And so, I have gone through those processes, and I feel like I'm there. So, yeah.
Based. All right. We have more super chats. And by the way, we are like 3/4 to the goal. Let's go. Not bad, boys. And we got time. We can hit it. It's not even 11 p.m. my time. I usually start around this time. So we're going to hit it for sure. We're feeling good. Don't give up. Keep the ball rolling. I'm going to try to get to the end of these super chats. We're on the final page, and there's only like 5 more. Hot dogs for sale. Tom, why was there no mention of the Holocaust in the 6 volumes history of World War II by Winston Churchill? It was first published in 1948, 2 years after the Nuremberg trials. 1948, Winston Churchill wrote a 6-volume history of World War II, and he didn't mention anything about the Holocaust. Why not?
I thought the Americans found the concentration camps, and I thought they found most of them. I could be wrong, but I didn't think that the British played a big part in taking those down and, getting surrenders and all of that stuff.
So Winston Churchill didn't find any Jewish survivors that told him about the gas chambers or something?
I'm looking at a title right now that says Britain's shameful record on the Holocaust. and labor's sellout of Jewish survivors. So I'm going to save this one to read
Send
later.
that to me. Post that link. This was from Hot Dogs for Sale, by the way. These are more gotcha questions, but they are good food for thought.
I am
Merlin
happy to
tipped
get
us-
these questions, so I am typing notes for each one of them to go look them up later.
Merlin tipped $5 to us. Thank you. By us, I mean me, because I keep all this money. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. But no, it is cool that you're hanging out here. But thank you. Natty of
I got maybe
the
like
White.
15 minutes left, around like 2 o'clock or at the top of the hour. I'm getting a little tired.
Oh, are you
now.
in the East Coast time zone?
Yes, sir.
Oh, bro, yeah, it's late for you. All right, fair. Well, then we'll wrap it up. And I got plenty more to do after this. Natty of the White sent a BitChute link. Hey, Tom, can you translate this ad for me? I'm a real human being and don't speak robot. Bleep, bleep, bloop, bleep. So, yeah, bleep, bleep, bloop, bleep. What does that mean for us who don't speak robot?
I believe it means 6 million is true.
That's, okay, there you go. Curious
That's the
George.
Translation I'm getting
You
from
have
it.
your answer. Okay, final link from Hot Dogs for Sale. This one's on YouTube, and it says 6 million, 1915. Interesting. Shall we play this one? From 1915, how could they know the number 20 years ahead of time? That's not possible. No
You keep
way.
moving your camera.
I do?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm waiting for you to fire up the oh yeah. That's
Oh,
right.
is there
So
another
here's-
link?
Yeah, I gave you another link here. Putting you to work to play these. I could play them too, but I gotta like pipe it 2 different ways for it to work out. It gets
Yeah,
kinda
it works.
odd.
I got 2 screens here, so it's
The Sun of New York, Sunday, June the 6th, 1915. This is 18 years before Hitler ever set foot in the government. There it is, people. 6 million Jews. The New York Times, October the 18th, 1918. And the article is called $1 billion Fund to Rebuild Jewry. There it is. 6 million souls will need help to resume normal life when war is ended. The New York Times, September the 8th, 1919. And the article is called Ukrainian Jews Aim to Stop Pogroms. Mass meeting hears that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million are in peril. In the New York Times, November the 12th, 1919, and have reduced to tragically unbelievable poverty, starvation and disease. About 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. February 23rd, 1920. 6 million Jews. Friday, May the 7th, 1920. The Fund for Jewish War Sufferers in Central and Eastern Europe, where 6 millions face horrifying conditions of famine, disease and death. New York Times, Wednesday, July the 20th, 1921. 12 years
so many.
before Adolf Hitler ever set foot in the government. Look at that. Russia's 6 million Jews are facing extermination by massacre. The Gazette, Montreal, December the 29th, 1931. And the article pretty much speaks up for itself. 6 million Jews face starvation.
It's almost like they were obsessed with the 6 million number and just like really, really couldn't stop using it, even way before the quote unquote Holocaust. What do you make of that? Anything?
I mean, there's no context there to make anything of it. It didn't give us any other information. Just said there's some newspapers here, so there's nothing to make of it.
Here's a bunch of newspaper articles where they kept on using the number 6 million every time they were referencing some sort of Jewish catastrophe. Can you understand or like empathize, as we say, with why when we run across things like this and many, like an endless list of things like this, why we become skeptical of this narrative of 6 million in a thing that they call the burnt offering, meaning Holocaust? You can at least understand why we're skeptical, right?
Yeah, I understand all of those things. I mean, I talk about this all the time. You guys aren't coming to illogical conclusions. It's just not all of the information. So it's
if we just really understood the process, then we would know that the process is the right answer.
I mean, everything has nuances to it. Everything has like if you actually want to get to the truth of things, there's always a lot more information than, like, in this case, you guys have like the very simplified answers of like, oh, there's a lot of Jewish people in power. Well, then there must be a cabal. Like that's the very like simplified, kind of thought process.
And then we find
to go through
them talking to each other and explaining that there is a cabal. And then we read books that literally proves that there's a cabal. And then they say that our goal is to hide this cabal from everybody else. And we catch them saying it. And then we think that there's a cabal. And then all evidence points to a cabal. And they also are like just crushing on a high level that's basically unexplainable without collusion on a high level.
Yeah, I haven't seen these. I've seen lots of people send me stuff saying that it's Jews saying that stuff, and then it turns out to be something completely different. But I'll be happy to look at anything that you think is Jewish people actually admitting that there's a cabal and that they want to hide it from people. I mean, the last thing that I got sent was a tweet, what's his name? Wurzelroot, like, oh, this guy Ali or whatever his name is, he tweeted this thing, therefore they decided to cancel Kanye West. Like, this is just, to me, like a big old nothing burgers. A guy is saying the same thing as most Americans right now, and he happens to be Jewish. Oh my goodness, he started the whole thing.
I just don't know. I don't know what you're referring to on that one.
I don't know either. It's a Jewish guy tweeted out and said like Kanye should be deplatformed or something, but he's like a big millionaire and he's Jewish. And so
you mean Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, who's in charge of like
no.
everything?
It wasn't Jonathan Greenblatt, but it was
it Ari Emanuel? Was it like
Ari Emanuel? Yes, it was Ari Emanuel.
Ari Emanuel,
yes.
Who literally has his fingers in all of the advertisers on Twitter and is in that picture where he's hosing off Elon Musk like he's the head Jew.
I understand this, but again,
he's not the same as everybody in America.
No, that's not what I said. I said he's giving an opinion that is the same as most everybody in America. So you're saying you're singling out one person and saying, "Oh my goodness, he has the same opinion as everybody else." So what? It's the same as everybody else. Like, but this is what the conclusion most people come to just reading the tweets by themselves. And he said the same thing as everyone else. Oh my goodness, he started it.
You really think that that's all there is to that? There's no way you actually think that. That's just so dense. Like if the president of the United States, which I know is different than Ari Emanuel, but only sort of, if the president says, I think that we should bomb the fucking shit out of Iran, and the next day we bomb the fucking shit out of Iran, but you would go like, well, everybody was thinking we should bomb the shit out of Iran. Just the fact that the president tweeted it, that doesn't mean that's why it happened. It's like, yes, it is. If everybody's thinking it and then the president says it and it happens, it's the president made it happen, not because everybody was thinking it. And just because everybody was thinking a certain thing about Kanye or had some sort of feeling, if Ari Emanuel tweets this thing, that's what causes shit to happen. So you want to pretend it doesn't, but it does.
That's disanalogous. It would be more analogous to say somebody says Nick Fuentes told everybody to deny the Holocaust, and so now all the groypers are denying the Holocaust. And I would say they're groypers. They already don't believe these things. They've already gone through their own thought process on these things. Like if you talk to them about the Holocaust, they already have these opinions. But no, somebody will say no. Nick Fuentes is telling them to believe this. He told them to believe this, and now they believe it.
So you're saying Elon was already going to ban Kanye?
No.
Because that's what the text was about. Ari said Kanye should get banned, and then Kanye got banned. And Wurzelroot's telling you Ari Emanuel pulls the strings on Elon. That's the point.
Yeah.
You're going, no, he doesn't.
I'm saying that the millions of people saying that Kanye should be banned is going to be a bigger deal than Ari Emanuel saying that Kanye should be banned.
So the millions of nobodies who don't matter, that's what pulls Elon's strings, not the billionaire who pulls the strings of all of Elon's advertisers who pay for Twitter to operate.
I'm saying the advertisers care more about what the millions of people think, and Twitter listens to the advertisers.
That's what you think, and you're wrong. They don't. They care what Ari Emanuel thinks. Ari Emanuel is
off the millions of people, not Ari Emanuel. So.
But the millions of people buy the products regardless. Ari Emanuel controls the chairman of the board and who gets to sit in the chair and who gets to be a billionaire from that country. The person who profits from the company is the person that Ari Emanuel gives a thumbs up to. So that person does what Ari Emanuel says. He doesn't care if millions of people are upset. The Ford can still sell F-150s, but if Ari Emanuel says pull your advertising, they pull their fucking advertising because Ari Emanuel gives thumbs up or thumbs down on who sits on the chair and the board of directors at that company. That's why Ari matters. They don't listen to the sample group of the audience. That's not even what advertising is for. You believe that because you're a bot, but that's not really it. They're not like people aren't liking it, we're not going to do it. They're part of this is how they control us, bro. This is why Kentucky Fried Chicken is putting out advertisements.
They're controlling you, obviously, not me.
No, they're controlling you and you have no idea. You're just literally in denial. You're just not aware. I trust the program.
I think you're definitely programmed. I think you're definitely brainwashed just by people different than who you think it is.
What's the brainwashing that you're referring to? Something totally off topic, right? It's going to be about Christianity or something.
No, I'm talking about like the stuff about Jews and stuff about the Holocaust and like.
So you think that I'm wrong about that? You think that Ari Emanuel doesn't give thumbs up, thumbs down on who gets to be on the board and get millions of dollars from the corporation?
I think that Twitter got big by doing what the users wanted them to do. I think that Facebook got big by doing what the users wanted them to do. There were other platforms at the time. There was Zynga, there was MySpace, there was other things. These platforms beat them out because they were giving the users what they wanted and they grew insanely fast. And when users make a big stink over somebody doing something, Twitter changes their TOS and they make new rules and they change things up. And like that just seems to be the way business works in capitalism.
What was the reason why Elon banned Ye?
I don't know, but I think Elon, least of anybody, is being controlled because he seems to be going against what the woke orthodoxy wants right now. And you guys believe that the Jews are the ones pushing the woke orthodoxy. So him, least of anybody, would be controlled by these guys.
So you don't know why Elon banned Ye?
From what I understand, the first time he banned him over the tweet about the DEF CON tweet, and then the second time it was some like personal thing about I don't remember exactly what it was, but it seemed personal to me.
Yeah, he posted a picture of Elon getting hosed down by Ari Emanuel.
Yes, that was what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, anyway, so you think that Elon? So you think he was responding to what the customers want, or he was just being personal and petty, or he got the signal from somebody that it's time to pull the trigger?
I mean, from what I'm reading here, he got banned for posting a Star of David swastika.
The signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what the reason was incitement to violence. So by posting that, he was inciting violence.
Well, yeah, again, demonizing a group of people seems to lead to like violence towards that group of people in general. So we've seen this happen over and over and over and over, which is why I say that I agree with you and that I shouldn't call you guys Nazis anymore, because demonizing people in that way can lead to violence.
All right, Based. Okay, Based. Yeah, so I think the pointing out of the power of Ari Emanuel as an individual, especially as an example of these types of individuals, and when we notice these individuals operating, these individuals are Jews, and they are operating in a type of way with connectivity and influence and leverage over others. And when we notice it and we say, hey, it looks like this is what's happening between this person and this person, what's the deal? First, it's like, don't do that. It's anti-Semitic. And then they go like, well, also that's not even happening. It's a conspiracy theory. It's like, all right, well, which one is it? And second of all, it's like, well, then what is really actually going on then? Like, why does it seem like it's happening over and over? Is this just like a phantom that keeps turning up? What's this deal with, like, I know you said you want to go, so we'll end it here, but what's the deal? Why did Chappelle say it's like when it's blacks, it's gangs. And when it's Italians, it's a mob. With Jews, it's a coincidence, and it's basically a figment of your imagination. It's just like this insane anti-Semitism that you had. You're just seeing ghosts, essentially, is what they tell you. It's like, well, blacks do form gangs, right? And Italians do form mobs, right? But with Jews, like, what do they form? They conspire. Like, that's what a conspiracy theory is. We're just like theorizing the nature of the conspiring that's going on. They are conspiring with each other for a certain aim, and it has names like Zionism, and it has, for example, and there's agendas at play that we don't like, and when we investigate those things, we always find like a something Steen or something Berg or somethingman at the root of it, and we're like, what's the deal? And then we find out that person is related to this person, and they both went to this school, and they studied under this professor, and they're both getting money from this institution. They're connected to the ADL, and they're connected to the ZOA, and they're connected to Israel, and they're connected to the Mossad. Oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they're both Jewish, connected to the Mossad, and they both had all the presidents on their island. And like, what the fuck? Like, it's like all the time with these people, like, but we're just crazy. And that feels weird to be constantly told, essentially, like, this is more or less what I'm dealing with in this conversation with you. It's not, you're not being mean with it, but it's like, why is it always a brick wall? Which sounds like we're like, what's the deal with the Jews? And the wall says like, you're just crazy. Like, are we just crazy? Are you serious? Like, I don't think so, bro. I mean, maybe we seem a little nuts, and maybe Kanye might seem a little bipolar or whatever you want to call him. But it's kind of like it's a crazy making situation when it's like all around and everybody wants to pretend it ain't.
Yeah,
that's like a constant, we living in gaslighting universe.
I have the same issue with the left, where they see stuff about like, about like child porn and stuff in magazines, and they start freaking out about the far right, and they start going off about far right this, far right that, neo-Nazis this, neo-Nazis that, right? Because the far right lives in their walls, and they talk to them. And yeah, now they sound freaking crazy. And it seems like the same thing with you guys and the Jews, where like it's motivated reasoning, where like before you've even got the information, you already think it's probably the Jews. And so then you go looking for information that says it's the Jews, when you could find other information that gives you like a more well-rounded thing. So like, I'm willing to admit Jewish people are in disproportionate positions of power. They run, banking, they run financial stuff, like all of the facts of the cases. I'm willing to admit all of this, and you and I are going to be on the same page with all of that. It's once we get into like, the conspiring stuff where it gets conspiratorial, those are the parts where we start to diverge. So I'm not the guy sitting here just saying, oh, well, you guys are just crazy. None of this stuff exists. You're just making it all up. Like, on the facts of the matter, you and I are going to agree on all of those things. It's once we start getting into like, incentives and, maybe this happened, maybe they said this in this dark room and all of that. That's where we're going to start to diverge, and I'm going to be a little bit more charitable with my readings. And I feel like I'm charitable with my readings for you guys as well. And I feel like when I fight with the left about stuff with you guys, they think I'm too charitable, and they think that I'm too nice, and that I should just look and see what's right in front of my eyes. And I'm yelling at them that they're all crazy people. So, yeah.
I would want to, if we had more time, I don't want to keep you for it, but that kind of begs the question: what are the things that the left is saying about the far right that's untrue?
I'm working on a video right now, okay. Another video essay, kind of like the Kanye one, with Ben Shapiro and all of them. Working on another video essay like that about the Balenciaga stuff, and you will see all of it there.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's a mixed bag with us on the right, and I can speak from somebody on the inside. The thing that you'll end up doing if you're not careful is you'll go, all of your theories about the far right, and then you'll name some of them like they're all Q idiots, and they're all flat earthers, and they're all Nazis, and you'll be like, that's all incorrect. Therefore, you're just crazy to be worried about them. It's like, actually, though, you should be worried about us because we're deadly fucking serious, and we are organizing, and we do actually have something that is very specific in mind for the future and the changes we want to make. And they're right that they will hate it because they're sinful, materialistic, godless people, and they won't like the world that we're going to create this world into. They're correct about that. And in the same way, you might say you're making up things about the Jews, and you have no evidence that the Holocaust numbers were made up, and the elders of Zion might have been a forgery, and you might say all this stuff. It's like, yeah, you might be right, but we're right about the Jews. They are conspiring. They are working for their own interests and not ours, and they are getting away with stuff that we shouldn't be allowing them to, and they're using the Holocaust as a smokescreen to get away with it a lot more than should be allowed. And if we were paying keener attention and being less trusting of them, we would be better off for it. They're not innocent. They are getting away with crimes. They are an organized crime family. So you can point at a lot of things that aren't correct, and a lot of people who are just sort of like bumbling dipshits or whatever in the naming and shaming of the Jews community. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing there. In the same way that if you just point at Q and point at flat earth, that doesn't mean there's nothing here on the far right either. There is something going on here.
When you get those facts or those documents or whatever, you can send them right over, and I will be willing to look at them. And
I sent you a couple links that came through on Super Chats. By the way, guys, I got them to him. He can review them in his own time. There's one that's called "The Boys Are Back in Town." There's another one was like a Jewish rabbi telling the story of Weimar Germany from his perspective. It's very interesting. I've seen that one before. I left it with you. If I could read you these last couple nice Super Chats that came in, and then we'll sign you out of here. Curious George said, "Thanks for coming on, Tom. Great content as always, Big Tech. I love you guys as much as I love Hitler." Thanks, George. Curious George. We're feeling the love. Very based. Hot Dogs for Sale said, "Tom, that symbol Kanye sent of the Star of David, it's actually called the Star of Ramphon. It's in the Bible. It's mentioned, and it's a pagan symbol. Star of David, Ramphon, and the swastika combined. So you know the image that Ye posted that they're saying he got banned for? If you don't know this, it's the official Raelian symbol. Raelian is the name of these. There's like a religion where they believe in. It's like kind of like a UFO cult or something. I don't know that much about it. From the outside looking in, that's like a way of describing it. And they made Musk an honorary guide for humanity in 2018. So the Raelians are like big fans of Elon Musk, and they have this symbol that unites the Jewish symbol and the swastika together, and it's like a symbol of unity and eternity or something. That's the symbol that Ye posted. It's a symbol of unity. It unifies both extremes or something. And then he got banned for that. You might want to look into it. He says look into it and try to keep up. The last one, Anonymous for 5 said, you heard of the 1350. What about 250? 2% of the population gives 50% of the donations received by the DNC. So 1350 is the FBI crime statistics. 13% of the population does 15% of the violent crimes, referring to blacks. What about the 250? 2% of the population, meaning the Jews, gives 50% of the contributions to the DNC. What do you think about that? Do you know that number?
No, I'm actually trying to look for it right now.
Yeah. So I bet Anonymous, it would be helpful if you wanted to supply a link to that too, because it's not so easy to see. You won't find like Jewish contributions because what it's going to do is it's going to show Jewish institutions or Jewish individuals. But then you find out, oh, it turns out this individual this one is, nobody knew this person was a Jewish person. Nobody knows that this organization is a Jewish organization. It's probably not something that'll come up on the front page of the Washington Post. But
it popped right up immediately.
Really?
As soon as I Googled it, there were a bunch of stuff that says U.S. Jews contribute half of all donations to the Democratic Party. Jewish donors give 25% of the Republican National Convention cash.
And they're 2% of the population, and they have that much sway on the election. I guess they have more high IQ individuals than we do. Wait a minute, they don't. They have more high IQ per capita, but we have far many high IQ individuals than they do because we have more numbers. So what accounts for them having such incredible sway over the politics? It's almost as if they're working together to have a collective influence that's far outweighs their actual representation of the population. Why would they want to do that? And what is it with the Democrats that they love so much? Is it... Should us right-wingers be cool with that? Hey, this tiny population among us is creating a massive problem by contributing to the DNC all the time. Are we...
You watched my video on Kanye West and Ben Shapiro, right?
Actually, I only watched a little tiny snippet of it. Should I watch the rest of it?
Yeah, Nugget in chat said the elephant in the room is nepotism. It's a word that isn't used to explain the percentage of media politicians. If you watch my video on Kanye West and Ben Shapiro, nepotism is mentioned in the video to explain the difference in disproportionate numbers, just the same as like with 1350 or systemic racism or things like this. We'll use history and look at what has happened to people and their culture and the things that they've gone through and all of the different things that we can see factually, not in back rooms, but right in front of us, and say, oh, well, this can actually explain it. We don't need to go add a bunch of other information. But I do have to head out. I appreciate you having me on.
Could you do me a favor?
Yeah, what's up?
One last one.
Okay.
It's one that I skipped, and he was just begging me in chat, please go back and read the skipped one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't want to scam him. Thanks, bro. All right, last one. Google images for Dresden bombing. Oh, and I'm supposed to show you the entire city rubbleized. I'll follow up with that. He says he trusts the experts. Does he trust Wikipedia images? By the way, Hitler didn't burn books. College students did. One famous Jewish book was called The End of Germany. Huh. Interesting. So Jewish college students were throwing out books that they found to be horrendous. And you need to look into the Dresden bombing, check out Wikipedia images. You won't find images like that. The thing is, you won't find those images on the other side. You won't find London looking like Dresden or Hamburg.
Yeah,
or Danzig.
I'm looking at a lot of the images right now.
It's just catastrophe. And these are not places where... These aren't war factories. These are just endless rows of homes. And they just came in at night and just wrecked it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just basically we just engaged in a war of terror. We just terrorized our enemies into submission. And because they were, haven't been too successful, they were rapidly expanding their territory. But they were.
Have you seen the conspiracies about the the United States in like the Middle East and stuff like that?
Which ones? Conspiracies about it?
Yeah, you should look into it. There's a lot of stuff of like it sounds exactly like what the far right says about Jewish people here, like the Middle East, the the Taliban and stuff like that. Like they have like these things about us like trying to genocide them, and we hate them, and we are trying to control them, and we're taking over their governments and all this other stuff. Like which a lot of the like facts in there are true. We've bombed them, we've gone to war with them, we've done coups with them, we've done all of this stuff. Just the conspiratorial parts is where it starts to veer off. But yeah, I do got to go though. I said I would get off at 2 and it's 2:20 now. So
yeah, you went over, bro. Well, I thought that was fun. I thought we got into a good debate, a good conversation. We debated a lot, but
we did.
It veered far off of Ye. It just went into Hitler and the Holocaust. But I guess that's what Ye brought up. I think I'll play your video next, actually, that you made on the subject recently. So I'll let you off, but I'll keep you on the show through the videos.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Night. Stay cool, bro. We love you like we love Hitler. Later.
Cool.